You ready to roll? Okay. Okay, welcome back to this room. I hope you had a great break and had a chance to get a snack and a drink of water. And so we're just going to take the next step now. We've obviously talked about values, and so I just wanted to introduce to you Mark Poitras, who's going to be leading this next section. And Mark is on our team, working with us at Next Generation Ministries and helping us with, in particularly History Maker and a number of the events that we are developing. And so it's just a joy. I met Mark about a year and a half ago, and Mark is not only a colleague, but he's a friend of mine, and he's got an incredible heart for the kingdom of God. He has background in business. Maybe he can tell you just a little bit more. But background in business, real call in his life for ministry. And so Mark's going to be taking us just now, just developing us a little further as we look at self-leadership. And Mark, welcome. Good to have you here. Let's give Mark a...
Okay, cool. Ben alluded to this, but I just wanted to touch a little bit about my background. I have a formal education in marketing, worked mostly with Fortune 500 companies in the last 20 years, right up to the VP and CEO level. Had a fairly large change in my life. I had set some goals when I came out of college, and I said, I want to live in $1 million house, and I want to drive a convertible German sports car, and I want to make $200,000 a year, and had all these goals. And the bottom line is, went out and I achieved most of them, but when I got there, probably you guys know where this is going, it was still a hole here. And we spent crazy amounts of money between me and my wife, earning money, making money, trying to fill that hole, and nothing seemed to fit. And there was a time where we had a friend refer us to a pastor, and we started talking to him just casually. We popped in the office downtown. We're both downtown, and chatting with him, and he suggested it. When we should look at Alpha, because we had a lot of questions. Kind of, there's got to be more to life than just money and working 60, 70 hours a week. And the long and short story is, we went to Alpha. We were both saved. And we literally changed both of our lives radically at that point in time. We totally changed our focus from money to God, to focus on getting out there and saving people and impacting the kingdom. So we really changed everything we did, from getting rid of the house, the cars, the money, and shifted our whole lives. And it's kind of interesting. I was a VP, Vice President in card services for a credit card company. And I had God talk to me and say, this is the wrong place for me to be. I need to do this thing, which was to be involved in producing large youth events. And I'm thinking, okay, this is really weird. I'm a marketing guy. I deal with international marketing stuff, finance. Why produce youth events? I had done some production stuff. Long story short is, I talked to my wife. I said, honey, I'm stepping out of the boat. So I quit the job, which is the first time I've ever quit. That's a large 6-figure job. And we have a large family to support, so that was no minor thing. And I stepped out. A couple of days later, Ben and I, our paths crossed. And really, we've never looked back. It's just been a great union of God connecting us. And so I'm very happy to be, and honored to be part of the History Maker team. My background has been in marketing and operations. So I've had an opportunity to sit down with a lot of different groups of people. And the biggest piece I see when I came into the ministry environment a couple of years ago was there's amazing visionaries within this realm of ministry, and there's people that are able to make mission statements and vision statements, but then it just kind of like falls off the table. It's like, well, this is what we're hoping to do, and then a year later it's kind of like, well, we never really got to that. Now we're going to do this, and we never really got to that. Now let's go over here, we're going to do that. And, that falls off the table, and you're like, well, you know what, we've been trying a bunch of different things, and there's kind of a burnout that happens for some people. It depends on where you're at. And new people come in and they say, hey, we're going to go here, and they go, no, we've already been there. It's no good. Let's forget about it. We didn't go anywhere. We tried that. It didn't work. So what I wanted to do today was talk to you about the process of planning, which for a lot of you may be painful. You're sitting there, process and procedure. It doesn't have to be. But before I talk about planning, a couple of weeks ago I attended a conference and it really changed my view on how I was looking at things recently. And I wanted just to take a couple minutes and touch on it because it affects how we goal set, how we think right now. In the past 6 months, there's been a lot of stuff in media. I mean, we've seen bailouts, the stimulus packages, the market crashing, the mess with the U.S. banks, thousands of people out of work. Some of us in our local church level have been affected. It's been people, I think the nice word in the Christian community is released to do other things. The secular world, we say, laid off, got the boot. And actually, this is the part that really concerns me as a giver is tithing and giving is down. People are holding back, and that's concerning to me. And I see a lot of people, both ministry and outside the ministry, worried. They're worried for their jobs. They're worried about their future. They're wondering what's going to happen for our ministry. Is our church going to keep on growing? Are we going to have a budget to hire new staff? Will my ministry or program be funded next year? I don't even know if I'll be here next year. And a lot of that goes back to preaching to the choir a little bit here, but back to the Bible, and there's just a couple things you guys are all familiar with Matthew 6:25. It says, therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, nor what your body or what you will put on it. And then 6:32 goes in and says, for your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. 6:33, seek the kingdom first and his righteousness, and all those things will be added to you. Worry, this was my major kind of revelation. Worry limits us in God's system. It does this because it's unbelief in what he's promising. If he says he's going to take care of us, we need to trust him.
That's right. Yeah.
The next piece that comes in is a lot of people say, well, okay, I'm not really worried, I'm just scared. You know where the Bible goes on that one, and that's probably the best one is 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but the power, but the power of love and a sound mind. Fear is the opposite of faith. We were talking about this the other day in our staff meeting. When we fear, same thing. We're saying, well, I know God says these things, but not sure. That's unbelief. So we need to make sure the seeds of fear can be as powerful as seeds of faith. So we really need to be careful when we have feelings of fear to dig in and get them out and make sure that we focus on the faith. Philippians 4:19, my God shall supply all our needs according to his riches and glory. So that means, when we ask questions like, how are we going to increase our ministry? How are we going to grow our church? How are we going to hire new staff? How are we going to keep our programs funded? My God shall supply all your needs. You just need to keep focusing on that. The other thing is, of course, there are two economies. There's the world economy, which I just talked about, and there's God's economy. As believers, we operate in God's economy, not the world's economy. So, in the past, God's used economic downturns to actually transfer wealth to believers and to his kingdom. So this is a good time for us. It's the exact opposite of what everybody thinks. This is a time of abundance. This is a time of opportunity. It's a time for change. It's a time for all of us to set some aggressive goals and really believe and pray into them that we'll meet and exceed those goals. It's a time of expansion, not a time of contraction. So when we're thinking about setting goals, be thinking greater, bigger, better. Think God.
Yeah.
Don't get sucked into worldly thinking. This was the challenge somebody said, and I thought it was kind of good because it busted me. They said, how much time do you spend reading, listening, and watching the news versus reading the Word. I'm like, well, darn. You know, it really should be, for most people, it's the exact opposite around. Like, so most of us are spending a lot of time consuming that when we're driving or wherever we are. We need to think about getting back to the Word and focusing on the economic part of the Word and the prosperity pieces of the Word and the promises of the Word. So I challenge you today, this is a bit of a planning thing, but I challenge you guys today to start a 40-day fast. But the fast is on fear and worry. No fear, no worry, 40 days.
That's good.
And it sounds easier, but it sounds easy, but boy, I'll tell you, I guarantee when you walk out of this room and something hits you, you know, you're going to be thinking,
That's great. That's great, Mark.
Okay, so let's get into the visions, missions, all the other stuff. We call that the planning process. When I talked about this earlier, but when I first got involved in ministry, I said, well, how do we do planning? And I have been involved in other ministries besides Ben's as well, and other Christian-based organizations. And they said, well, you know, Mark, we believe in spirit-led leadership. Okay, well, what's that mean? So they would explain it, and I go, well, okay, in the secular world, we would call that winging it. So, yes, you know, and we always joke about that. But there is some merit to spirit-led leadership and believing. What I'm going to talk about today in the planning process, and we're going to dive in here. In fact, God plays a huge part of it.
Yeah.
If you think you can reach your goals without God, you're probably in the wrong room.
Right.
So it's not about us, it's about Him.
Right.
And we need to think about that when we do our planning and goal setting. There are a couple of interesting components to planning. There's what I call a template, there's a process, there's communication, there's thinking. Part of thinking is common sense, and everybody always seems pretty straightforward, but you know what, common sense isn't that common. Most people don't stop and think, well, how would that work? Wisdom, faith, and prayer. And then for me, the key ingredients is, and I urge all of you guys to incorporate this in your planning, is the Holy Spirit. You know, we can sit down and say, okay, these are the 80 steps that are going to happen. These are the dates, times, places, people that need to be involved. But, you know, the bottom line is when we get in the process, if we're not listening to the Holy Spirit, we're going to, I think the joke is, we're going to hit the wall without any skid marks. It's going to be boom, and we're not going to know what happened. So we have to stay in tune and close and connected with the Holy Spirit. The cool thing is when we plan, the results are predictable, the outcomes are measurable, and we're almost always more effective and productive. It's as simple as that. There's no way to argue around good planning. And at the end of the day, the rapture was to happen tomorrow. Please, take me. You know, we'd want to be as effective each day as we possibly can. I don't think we want to say, well, I know there was 6 months there, I didn't really do anything for the kingdom. I just kind of took a long holiday. We want to make sure that we're accountable and say, yeah, you know, we did everything we could in our powers and our thought and mind to do what we needed to do. So in the planning process, there are some basic elements. And I picked 7 because that's the number of kids I have. So, and 7's the perfect number, difficult thing. So they are, I'll fly through them really quick, but vision, mission, goals, objectives, strategy, tactics, and resources. And this is where most people go. It's really simple. There's about 30 different models for this, but I have cooked it down to this particular one only because it's the most straightforward model, and it works in virtually any application, whether you're working with a nonprofit, small ministry, or a multi-billion-dollar company. It's basically the same 7 questions you need to answer anytime you approach any of the projects or any of the things that you're doing. So vision is, what do we want to do? Mission, I'll have a handout on this. Mission is why do we want to do it? Or sorry, how do we want to do it? My mistake. Goal is what needs to happen for us to do it. Objective is how will we know it's done? Yeah, I'll have a sheet here. Hand out for you guys. Strategies are how we're going to do it. Tactics are what are the deliverables? What are we going to actually get? And the resources, what do we need to do it? Many leaders tend to jump right into the goal area and say, okay, instead of saying goals, what do we want to do? they tend to say, what do we want to do versus what needs to happen for us to achieve our vision or our mission. And there's a disconnect that happens. Because sometimes, depending on your vision and mission, there's one or two things that happens there. I'll talk a little bit more about each of those in a sec. But the vision mission statement is important for you from a church perspective or a ministry perspective, but it's also important from a lower level, from whatever level you're working at in ministry or whatever your audience is. Because the problem is, sometimes with mission and vision statements, they're just not very good. They're really wordy, they're very long, they're very ambiguous, and everybody has, how do I attack that vision? How do I support it? It's no different. I see this with pastors, senior pastors too, that have amazing vision and mission statements, but still aren't able to actually execute, aren't able to get everybody on board behind it because it's disjointed from what everybody's doing, if that makes sense. So what I want to do today is I want to define vision, mission really quick, and then we'll get into how we build on it. So it's vision and mission. This is really easy. I have some sheets. I don't know if I brought enough. Maybe a stack here to do some passes around. I'm almost guaranteed to be short, but thanks. These are those headings I just read off. You can make notes on those, obviously. The biggest thing is I don't think anybody, because biblically in Habakkuk it talks about vision, so I don't think anyone's going to argue in here we don't need vision, just let us run blindly in the dark. I think everybody agrees we need vision, but I think there's some questions on why. So specifically, it identifies direction and purpose, it helps us focus on what we're supposed to be doing, and it results back into efficiency and productivity. The things that kill vision, cool. Alarms. Yeah, alarms. Things that kill vision are tradition. That's not the way we've done it before. I hear that a lot. The funny thing is, and there's some very progressive companies, and you go in there and they go, we look at it and say, well, why is this being done this way? It's the way we've always done it. And sometimes it involves 10 or 15 steps when they could just go directly down the path and do something really quick and easy with eliminating a bunch of steps. Fear ridicule. Other departments going, what are you guys doing? You're nuts. The stereotypes of people, conditions, roles, or boards. Oh, the deacon board will never go for that. Oh, our senior pastor is a stick in the mud. No, it absolutely won't happen. There's no way we can propose that. We talked about some of the stakeholders, people being involved, that are just kind of like, well, let's just let it roll. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Everything's cool. People get tired. Sometimes they're in the position too long. Not a challenge anymore. We've been through it. It's our 36th time we've done this exact process. I don't really see any use in adopting or looking at any new ways of doing it. Short-term thinking, it's good enough for now. I hate that. That drives me nuts. And I just go back to, from the God perspective, is it good enough for him? So, naysayers, generally just people doubting again, which definitely isn't from God. One thing with visions is really important, visions and missions. Sometimes people go, okay, you need a good vision and mission statement. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go on the internet. We'll take 30 of them, and then we'll just mix them all up till we get what we want. Well, it doesn't really work. Ben's an amazing man of God. Does a whole bunch of things, a great speaker, great relationship guy. There's all these great things, but if I try to be Ben, not going to happen. I will not succeed because God's called us to do different things. Every single person in this room has their own unique vision and mission. So it's important I think you spent some time talking about values earlier this morning, but it's important for you to find your own vision and mission that's unique to your situation, and that you don't just blindly adopt someone else's. So when we went through this with HistoryMaker, I'll use the HistoryMaker as an example. The vision for HistoryMaker that we came up with was, so the vision question is this, what do we want to do? So for HistoryMaker, we came up with, it's really simple, we just want to rescue a generation, and can stretch that out a bit. Essentially that involves saving and helping Christians that are already saved to become disciples, or help them with discipleship and growth. So it's about rescuing a generation. So it's really clean and simple. Most mission statements, 35 words too much. We're going to help, empower, and change, and you can't even, like most of them are like a novel. The problem is when you have 4, 5, 6 sentences, and there are certain circumstances where you can justify that. It's just it's lost. Everybody reads it and goes, wow, okay. Next, rescuing a generation is short. It's easy to understand, and your mission statement should be too. It should be very concise, very short, packed with some powerful words. I wish I had some time to take you through that exercise. It's really fun, but of course we don't have time to do that today. Mission is how do we want to achieve our vision? So in the History Maker example, I'll just roll through, is we want to rescue a generation is the vision. Mission by creating and building events that impact and empower youth and young adults. So that's how we want to achieve our mission. The next piece, and I have examples. I took one of the one I'm giving you. I have it on a handout here. I'll give it out to you guys in the end, or if you want a copy where I take one example all the way through, and you'll see it sounds it's a lot easier when you read it than when we go through it. The goals. So next thing down is your goals. Now most people this is where people get confused. Depending on the organization, a vision, goals are defined many different ways. The challenge is, I came back to this model and the definition of goals. Sometimes goals are defined with numbers and dates and times, and in this model they're not. So in this model, which I really love, your goals will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5. At the very, very, very most will be your number of goals. They will hardly ever change. They may go most of the year. Some goals may go several years. It's your objectives underneath that will change. And your objectives are going to be the measurables. So for goals, they describe an end state. So they're not measurable or actionable, and they don't have specific time frames associated with them. As I mentioned, there's only 3 to 5, and they hardly ever change. So in our example of History Maker, one of our 5 goals is to grow. I think some of you may know, we have a History Maker conference, which is here in Langley, coming up May 15th to 17th. Tickets still on sale. You have those. Is to grow the conference. To grow the conference attendance. So that's the goal, just to grow it. It doesn't say from this number to this number. It doesn't say by this date, by that date. It's just to grow it. Can we keep that goal every year? Mm-hmm. At least till we get to BC Place, and then we got to figure out something else. So you can see that goal will keep constant all the way through. Objectives are, you've probably all heard this. This has been around like 1,000 years. When you set objectives, they're SMART, which is, you guys all heard that? Yeah. They're specific. Everyone has a little different terminology. So SMART is an acronym. It's specific, measurable. I'll dive down to it in a sec. Attainable. I like the word reasonable. And timely. So when you look at objectives, they're very specific. So here's an example of an objective we have following underneath. So our goal was to grow the History Maker Conference attendance. Our objective underneath it is to increase, so it's very specific, increase paid attendance, more specific, to 15,000 people. These are made-up numbers. 15,000 people. And revenue to plus $1 million in 2010. These are totally made-up numbers, so don't quote me on it. Okay, so it's very specific. It could be to save so many kids, or to have 100 kids in my program and have 30 salvations by September 1st. I mean, you change the variables, but they're very, very specific. They're specific because they need to be measurable. It's a bottom line. You need to know, did I make it or didn't I make it? And sometimes people get uncomfortable going, well, if I put something on paper, I'm going to be accountable. Yes, you are, which is the next part of SMART, is being Attainable and accountable. Attainable is it reasonable, which is also related. But attainable, can we actually make that number? Is it possible to have, in my example, 15,000 people? Reasonable, there's a little different terminology for SMART. You can look it up on the internet. Reasonable is related to attainable. They kind of overlap a bit, but reasonable and attainable kind of interchangeable. The next is timely, which is given a time, date, and place. By what date, by what time. So it's really important to set out very specific objectives. You know, the funny thing is, though, I know it sounds like really simple stuff, and when you go through it and you just answer the seven questions, you rip through them, this stuff really, really works. It works because it breaks everything down into little pieces. And for some people, I think this way. A lot of the people I deal with are totally not. They're vision, and they're more visionary people. I'm kind of a combination between visionary and process person, so I can kind of take the vision and download it into the process. So we're going through the process. The next step is strategies. So how are we going to do it? So a strategy describes a specific approach. So with History Maker, to use that example again, remember we're trying to grow attendance, and then we give a specific number. I think it was $15,000 million by 2010. A strategy would be, how are we going to do that? So one of the strategies, and there's multiple strategies, is interdenominational growth. So we're going to look for, because the event's interdenominational, we're going to look for support outside the Pentecostal church. We're going to be talking to all Christians. So that's our strategy. It's interdenominational growth, build event outside of the Pentecostal churches through a comprehensive communication plan. So we're going to talk to churches that aren't involved, that aren't Pentecostal, and we're just going to communicate to them and let them know about the event and the parts and the pieces. So So what we're doing is we're doing a bit of, I hate using the pyramid, so let's not do that. I'll do. So you have vision, and then we have mission. We have goals. So goal, it's going to look something like this when you're done. 2, 3, let's do 4, 5. And then underneath that we have objectives. And then below that, we're going to have the strategies. And there could be a whole bunch of strategies. And then below that, we'll get to that in a second. So the idea is that it's going to end up being a tree, kind of, so to speak, an upside down tree. So the next piece, we're on strategies. And strategy should be covering a bunch of different pieces, so they should be more specific than our objectives, and answer the question, as I mentioned, how are we going to do it? Next is the tactics. What are the deliverables? So how do we figure out what we need to achieve the strategies following this? So in the History Maker example, there are action items. They're things like a to-do list, what we actually need to do. And again, this is another place that a lot of people fall off. They can get to the list part, but then it kind of dies because nobody wants to do what needs to be done. So for History Maker, our tactics are, if we're using the interdenominational communication plan, I won't go through it all, but it's identify a database, filter, prepare a communications package, develop web support, develop campaign. So it's like literally miniature to-do lists. So each one of these is a task that someone's going to have to do. And the last piece is, once we've got a list, an action list of what needs to be done, quite simply is, what do we need to do it? What is the resources that we need? And we call those resources, right? Resources. What do we need to do it? So that's, in this case, it could be database software, it could be research, it could be volunteers, it could be photocopying, it could be gas, it could be a van, depending on what your goals are. So what I was going to ask you guys to do is I'm going to give you an example of what I just talked about. And I will... How many of you guys have... How many of you guys are in, let's start, ministry, like you look after your ministry, so you're head pastor, senior pastor, okay? How many look after a department? Okay, cool. So for those people who look after departments, have you guys ever done any visioning or mission statement work? Yes, no? Okay. So you have an active vision and mission statement? Okay. So anybody that has an active vision mission statement, what I'd like you to do is we're just going to take a couple minutes, and if you can take, if you remember it, take and just think about objectives and try to work some examples through. If you don't have something you know right off the top of your head, take an example, something that's personal to you, and work it through the seven questions there. So just take something that you have and go through the 7 questions and answer it. Does that make sense?
What do you mean by take something that we have?
Okay, so if you're in youth ministry, take a goal. If you have a vision and mission, then take that and plug it in, and then fire in some goals, or a goal, an objective, a strategy, a tactic, and resources. Like work it through. Can you guys do that? Or the other option is if someone has something, we can work through it as a group. Everybody's looking at me like, oh, it's really late in the afternoon and you're asking us to do hard stuff.
Actually, that's pretty good. I like that idea, to do this in group.
Okay, who wants to volunteer? I've got more examples, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's got one.
She's got a vision and a mission.
Okay.
I just need a minute.
Okay.
Just to remember it. I know it.
Okay. I want to walk through this because I can give examples all day, but it takes a bit of scratching to hear a couple different perspectives that'll be unique for you guys. The process is important because when we don't dive into the goals, objectives, strategies, and tactics, usually that's when things start to fall off. So it is hard. It's not easy going from here to here, but if you use that template for questions, you'll find it is easier. It just takes a little bit of thinking. Oh, Rebecca's writing her public example. Rochelle, sorry. Does anybody have any questions about the process?
So we went through this process as a church a couple years ago, but we never got beyond the vision and the mission as far as I can tell. And it's very long and unwieldy. The vision is simple, and it's probably too broad because it's just love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. The mission expands that, but it's just so huge I couldn't tell it to you. And we never did, as far as I can tell, get to the goals, objectives, strategies, and tactics. So in each of the departments, that doesn't like trickle down.
Yeah.
To trickle down aside from just randomly, basically. So what would you do to kind of go back and fix that?
I hear that a lot, and I kind of hinted on that earlier. That's kind of where the breakdown happens. So I have a ministry, I'm in a church, I can't relate to my vision mission statement because it's so obscure or so broad. How do I pull it in? Well, there's two things you can do. The first thing is to go back and try to, which isn't easy, revisit the vision mission statement and make them more specific and more practical. Those aren't bad visions and missions, but as a church, it goes back to the same thing. We can take basic biblical principles and I'm trying to think the best way to say that. Here's a great way. When a long time ago, have you ever seen the pie where you have it's like your life pie, they call it, or whatever, and you have, okay, exercise, 25 minutes, family life, or whatever, 25%, family life, 25%, and there's usually a slice that says spiritual, and then there's work. Have you ever seen that? The pie is all sliced up. Well, most people tend to look at that and say, okay, our spiritual, they usually have a pie piece in there for spiritual or faith. The way to look at that is, I'll show you how this relates back, but is to take the faith piece out and look at the whole thing through the lens of faith as a Christian. So we should have, so that shouldn't even be in the pie. It should be everything we do is Christian at work, play, working out, wherever we are, it's all Christian. So from a church perspective, when we adopt something broad, it kind of puts us in a piece of the pie and say, we're going to do this little sliver. We need to take kind of a step back and say, okay, well, all churches subscribe to that, all Christian churches subscribe to that belief, if you will. So we need to be more specific and say, look, that's a general view or a lens that we're going to look at everything through. We're going to all be Christ-like, or we're going to have that view. So what is going to make us different? How do we take something that's going to make us different? So impact community. So there's a bunch of different words, but the easiest way to do a vision statement exercise, this is really actually kind of fun, is you sit with a whiteboard. I'll tell you the secret. We used to charge like $15,000 to do this, but this is the secret. You take a big whiteboard, you get one person with a pen, and you sit around in a group of about this size, and you sit and you basically throw out words that best describe what your church is or what your church wants to be. So you want to impact your community. You want to.
Would that be the same as values, Mark? Would they come into play somehow?
It can be. They're interrelated. So the idea is that, but they're more specific. Like in our case, when we did ours as an example, you started off with, I'm going to guess, probably 50 words, maybe even. We had a couple pages, like old page packed full of words, and rescue and generation and youth, and all these things were mixed in it. And what you do is you get them all down there, then you go through a process of elimination. And you say, okay, we've got 50 on the board, let's knock it down to what are the 40 best that describe it? What are the 30 best? What are the 20, 10, 5? Usually you get to 5. Depends on the situation, but between usually 3 to 5, you'll find that you'll suddenly have a very unique footprint or fingerprint. I've never done the exercise where the outcome has been the same, and I've done it with the same companies in the same industries that come with completely different mission statements. And it goes back to, and in a lot of cases we can go down to, when we do the exercise, we'll drill down to one word. And you'll see that, again, if we did it in here for each of you guys, I guarantee we probably have 20 different words, 30 different words, whatever, just basically a different word for every person in this room that would be, which is different values, but from a church perspective. You'd have different focuses or different things that make you guys unique as a church.
Mark, is there a book or something that you could recommend that you know of that could be a resource just to walk through something like this that's out in the marketplace right now?
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
We had picked this, this is something we had picked up. I was involved in private equity, and we took emerging companies, and most of them were visionaries, and they were looking for millions of dollars to float their ideas. So we would go into agencies, different groups, and we'd sit down and we'd do like a 5-day workshop. It'd be like, not a word of a lie, it'd be like $30,000, $40,000. And this is what they took us through. And it's a bit of a proprietary thing, so not too many people, it sounds pretty simple, but there's a bit of a process involved, but it really does work. You can do it for visioning. Once you get your vision down to 3 to 5 words, then it's just a matter of answering the mission question.
Can I just make a comment? Sorry, what's your name? You asked your question. Bonnie? Yeah, I think you're in the context also just of the local church, and you're working with your, senior pastor and your team together. You've come up with a vision for your congregation. I think, the first thing is obviously that needs, like, whatever the vision is for the children's ministry needs to come under that main vision. But I think it's a great opportunity for you and your team, even with communication to your leadership, saying, hey, we're going to take our vision, we're excited about it. Look at it very proactively and positively. And we just really want to get more specific and drill down, and so start going after the objectives and tactics. Come back to your senior leadership and say, hey, here's what we've come up with, and show them how it relates to the global vision of the church. And I think that'll help your area, your department. And I think as long as there's good communication back and forth, it's actually a win-win, because it's a win for your church, because they're like, wow, our kids' ministry, they're taking this vision to a whole new level. But as long as there's good communication, so it's not like, hey, we're doing our own division. In the church, you guys can do whatever you want, but so that's just something to be considered as you do the process. But that's great. Those are good thoughts.
I got one part. I had a question about when you're in an organization, especially when there's departments or even silos that seem beforehand.
Yeah.
What is your personal thought or opinion on each department or silo making their own mission and mission statement? And if you think that's a good thing, what things do you consider if they're going to start making their own specific ones?
The biggest issue is what Ben just talked about, is that specific visioning and missioning, because what it is, it's focus. Vision is focus. So what that means is you have a bunch of different departments focusing on different things. So they need to be under the umbrella of the church. It has to be. So as far as if that falls under, so if you were able to create a mission statement that was consistent with the vision mission statement from the church, that works very well. Absolutely.
Would you recommend that? Or would you recommend there be one vision mission?
If I was coming in from scratch, one mission, because we know the power of a group versus individuals, and it's the same, I believe, when you have a bunch of different departments doing their own thing. There's much more power if you have, well, it's like prayer, right? Have the power of the group, having more than one person. So that's what I believe, is that I think a church is more effective when they have a very concise vision, mission statement, and then everybody can fall underneath it and say, okay, that's the mission statement. In our case, Rescuing a Generation, we have departments, children's ministry, all that kind of stuff in our area. How do we rescue generations? And you'll see, in our case, Rescue Generation is a bit of a play, because it depends on what generation. We could be talking youth, young adult, children and families, so it depends on, it's kind of multifaceted. But a good vision statement should be able, every person in every department should be able to pull off or fall under a good vision statement. The challenge is not always, the vision and mission statements aren't always as strong as they could be, I guess is a good way to say it. So if it's a situation where the senior leadership team has set the vision and mission and they're firm in that, then the only comment I have is, if you're going to set a vision mission, that you definitely want to float it by senior leadership and make sure that they understand how it relates to their vision and mission, and make sure it's this, not that.
So would the entire church be setting the mission too? Because it seems like the how is kind of like specific to departments. Is it not? Like, doesn't the how kind of change depending on what?
It can be. This is the bit of the challenging piece. There is no, I hate saying that, there's no right or wrong answer. It depends how everybody views it. So you can have churches that have a very strong vision and mission statement. Like, let's take ours as an example. We have Rescuing a Generation, and then it's building and creating events, of which you're at one. So then we have, and empowering and inspiring. So et cetera, et cetera.
And then we've tied it in with strengthening,
Local church. I'm using the abbreviated version, but so everybody department can read into our vision and mission. In our case, it's the way it was built because we started with a blank sheet of paper and said, how do we do it? But if you're not dealing with a blank sheet of paper, it's going to depend on what your vision and mission statement. If your mission statement is very specific, then, and a lot of times they're kind of flipped around. They're not organized
Yeah, right. Yeah.
in the same way.
So then each department would start at the goal level, I guess, where they start defining things specific to the department or depending on what they...
Yeah, which is a challenge because if this, if this isn't well focused,
Yeah. Yeah, then
yikes,
Yeah.
because now you're doing this. You're like a magnifying glass in the sun. So, it just depends on if that vision mission is not focused, like I said, it's going to put you guys off your mark. Or you have to think of a way to either go back and look at a vision mission statement unique for your ministry. Which, again, it just depends on the leadership perspective on what senior leadership. Some senior leadership may say, hey, no problem, go ahead. We understand how it needs to focus. But perfect case scenario, it should be fully integrated all through the entire church. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, did you want to go through that?
We've got about 10 minutes
Okay.
until the break, so let's do it.
Okay, so what do we have for vision?
For vision is a place to belong and believe,
Okay.
and this is for our kids' ministry.
Yeah.
And then our mission, it's funny because when you're saying this, it's kind of like, it's not really working out, but
Yeah.
our mission to supplement the family in unlocking God's truth and connecting children to each other in the life-changing power of Jesus. And then we have values under that, but do you want to hear those?
So go back to vision again.
Okay, place to belong and believe.
Okay. So in this, it's a little different because the phrasing, let me see, vision. So what do you want to do? So you would want to create a place.
Yeah, so would you, with that?
Yeah, to follow this model, you'd be looking at, you would want to create a place. And then the next question would be, how are you going to do it?
For the mission, right? No.
Yeah, for the mission. So your vision is to create, can you say it again?
Yeah, to create a place to belong and believe. And then the mission would be to supplement the family in unlocking God's truth, which would come under the believe part. And then connecting children to each other, which is a place of belonging.
Yeah.
And then life-changing power of Jesus. So.
Yeah, you have to rejig that a bit so that the reason that it's important to follow, if you're going to use this model as an example, it's important to kind of rephrase it and rejig it because when you get down to objectives and strategies and tactics, if the top isn't organized, if it's not phrased right, if it's not in the right place, you're not going to be able to figure out the objectives. What's my measurable? Like, what's my objectives? What's my strategies? How do I break it all out? It's not going to break out. So your vision would be an active thing to reach. So it's ongoing. In our case, it's rescue. In your case, is to reach, I think, or to create a place. Sorry,
Yeah.
create a place. And then, so for mission, what was? How are you going to achieve creating that place?
Good question.
Well, we're all thinking it's create a place, and there's 3 things in this bit.
Yeah, create a place to belong and to believe. So,
Okay,
That almost sounds like a how.
so the question is, how do you want to do it?
how do I want to do it? I want it to be a fun place where kids want to be, and they can learn about God.
Okay.
So how do I word that into a mission?
I think that is a mission.
Yeah, say it again. Sorry.
What did I say?
Maybe.
Yeah, but a place where they want to come in and it's fun, somewhere where they want to come, where they feel belonging and where they learn about God. So,
Okay, so that's still kind of vision though, because you're saying, I want to create a place.
okay.
So then I'm saying, well, Just from a simple conversation. You're telling me, hey, I want to create this place,
Yeah.
these characteristics, and I'm asking you how you can do it.
We're gonna
Yeah, we're going to spend the whole
So it's not hard, it takes some thought. But I guarantee if you can spend probably enough time now, but if you can spend some time just working it through, the how. I know it sounds, depending on how you, everybody thinks a little differently. For vision people, that how can be really difficult. It's like, okay, got the vision, someone else figured out how we're getting there. And that's, I was joking about that earlier, but honestly, that happens in a lot of churches. Pastor downloads amazing vision from God, absolutely, totally anointed vision from God. And the staff goes, okay, thanks, Pastor. Now, Pastor leaves and go, how can we actually do that? How do we actually execute this? I mean,
How do you differentiate the mission and the objectives? Because they're both how questions and they're both how to achieve these things.
yeah.
What makes them different?
Yep. Mission is, so how do you achieve the vision? And your objective is how do you achieve the goal?
So like would partnering with families be a mission or would it be an objective?
Depends on what your vision is.
Or objective? Sorry, step.
Yeah.
Because they're all kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
they're all a
think
little bit synonymous.
it's almost like they, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but it's almost like they just keep getting more and more specific. Like vision is like the lights came on for me and understanding what a vision is, it's a snapshot. Like if you can get a picture or a poster or a Polaroid picture of the future, and you look at it and you go, that's what I want to see. That's what I see. That's your vision. And then the mission is a little bit broader. How do we make that vision happen? And then it just keeps getting a little more. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just think, just from the perspective of what do you want it to look like, and then how do you want to do it? That's the how do you want to do it is probably the hardest thing. And that's where people kind of fall in the trap of, hopefully nobody gets offended by this, but ambiguous Christianese. It's usually very ambiguous, flowery, long words, and everybody kind of goes, great, what's it mean? Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, with your example, is your mission statement rescuing a generation, or is your mission statement creating and building events that inspire and empower you in the lives?
Vision is to rescue a generation, and mission is to create and build.
So if someone asked you what History Maker's mission statement is, you would say creating and building these events. That one?
Yeah, and it goes, there's a couple sentences to that, but yeah.
Okay.
The biggest thing is, Ben talked about this a second ago. We always look at this, I guess, a bit from a marketing perspective. If you, like in our case, we actually use it as part of our, I don't want to use the word slogan, but as part of our positioning with History Maker. It's History Maker Rescuing a Generation. You should almost have that for your ministry. You should have a 5 to 7 word vision statement that just says, wow, okay, that's very cool. How do you do that? Because it's almost like a conversation people are going to have with you. What is your ministry about? What is your church about? Well, we da-da-da-da-da. In our case, we rescue a generation. Well, how do you do that? So it's just very logical thinking. So you need to think through the answers to be very specific. And then as you drill down, it gets down to very specifics, right down to how many paper clips you need.
So the vision should almost beg the question, how are you going to do that? So when somebody hears your vision, they're like, wow, that's great, I'm interested, so how?
Because
Good thought.
the model came from, there's a bunch of different models, but the reason that this came forward was simply because that's, for some reason, there's in the big picture, vision and mission have been corporately church. It's been really mixed around. People have vision and mission statements, everything, the lingo's all mixed around. Depends what church you go to, which order they're in. So the vision statement is, I believe it to be biblically correct based on Scripture saying, look, the vision comes first. Write the vision. It's not write the mission. So I started with a biblical perspective and said, okay, God, tell me, how does this supposed to work? Okay, vision first. and then mission, and then down from there. Yes, you had a question?
I was just going to say that for me, what helps me is to put through in between the two. So the vision, rescuing a lost generation through having these events, blah, 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 like not just,
Yeah.
because sometimes it seems like even though the mission is going to stand on its own, just connecting them, that takes it right to the, how am I going to do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you just totally hit a very secret point. No, it's not secret. Yeah, we do that in the exercise for sure, absolutely. Put through in between vision and mission. So we rescue a generation through, we rescue a generation by. It should literally be a sentence. We play with that all the time. I'm sure Ben probably has it down pat because he gets asked so many times. But it is, yeah, it is important. And the other funny thing is, how powerful is a vision if nobody can remember it and no one can relate to it? It's not. I don't know how many times I've been in some very large companies and there's a beautiful mission, vision statement all, on the wall, but if you pull someone aside and say, what's your vision and mission, they're like, I don't know, it's in the lobby. It's like, there's no relation to it. And I want to wrap up, because we're running out of time, but I want to wrap up and say, biggest piece, like, okay, there's a bunch of reasons on why you want to do this, but number one is we talked about increasing the results, like physically making a difference at the end of the year, something that's measurable. Say, okay, you know what, we started here and we finished here. There's an actual measurable thing. It's not, well, yes, we've improved the community. It's very specific and measurable. Some people are scared of that because it is specific and measurable. But the thing is, if you don't have start and finish, it's difficult to figure out where you've gone. And there's a bunch of different analogies. It's like when you look at vision and missioning, I think a lot of times there's an analogy where it gets thrown up like a ladder against the wall. Everybody goes running up it, and they go to the top, and they go, well, wait a second, I don't want to be here. Because no one thought to take a step back from a planning perspective and say, okay, well, where do we want to be? What's our vision? Like, where do we want to end up? What wall do we want to be on the top of, to use that analogy? We shouldn't have a ladder over here that if we're heading over there. And that's the disconnect. It really is. There was, and the other piece is ownership. I just talked about it a second ago, is having a strong vision mission statement not only gives focus to everybody, whether it's volunteers or whoever is in the ministry, but it's about ownership too. It's like people actually care because they understand what the focus is, and it's very singular. It's not, well, here's our 35-page focus this month. It's like, where do we start? In our case, it's very, very focused, rescuing a generation, very focused. And then we can drill down into pages of documents if we need to. So I hope that helps. I know it's a lot of stuff to kind of throw at you. I'd love one day if we have a chance to go through a mission vision exercise or do a little bit more workshop stuff and have you guys maybe do some work before you come in. But does anybody else have any other questions?
Sorry, would you say like the vision is a short sentence and then the mission expands on it? Like you said, 2 class, 7 words for the mission and then the search for the vision and then the vision can be longer?
Yeah, don't get hung up on the words because I've done amazingly powerful, make you cry, Holy Spirit, anointed vision statements that are like a sentence long or 10 words long. So it's not, don't get, okay, well, it has to be 3. But as a rule of thumb, that's where you kind of want to get it down to because it's easy to remember for one. Most people can remember 3 to 5 words and they can relate to it versus several sentences. So, but the short answer to your question is, in a really long way, is yes. It expands on it. Is anybody else? Yes?
You're talking about how a lot of churches have it on the wall and that kind of thing.
Could be small churches.
How important is it to have your vision and mission statement visual for the people that you are ministering to in your church? Is that important?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's written in the Bible somewhere. Write it big. How about that? Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. In our church, it's actually, I guess it's kind of a triangular shape or diamond shape. I never really, it's a weird sanctuary. But on the walls on each side of the stage, it's written in huge bold letters. So everybody coming, everybody worshiping, it's there. So I think it's very important because you know what? A church is not the people, it's not just the staff, obviously, when you guys are in the trenches, but it's everybody that attends the church. And it's not just in the building. So I think it's just critical having a powerful vision mission statement, because just because I'm not on staff or I'm a lay person or I'm working downtown doesn't mean that I shouldn't be committed to my church's vision and mission. You're a church, so, and I'm a great believer, I shouldn't go off on that tangent, but about people being planted. I think it's really important that people are committed to their local church, they're planted, they're active in it, and part of that, having a strong vision mission statement, is part of that as far as I'm concerned, because they're taking that out to the workplace, wherever they happen to be. So I think when churches get that piece and they really sit down and spend a little bit of time on it, just absolutely amazing things can happen when you have a mass of people with a single focus. And it can be mass, it could be 20 people in the church, or it could be 2,000.
Would you say it kind of like clarifies the identity of the church then, like the vision?
I think so, yeah, for sure. I think in some cases, I think there's opportunities for some churches to focus, and I think it's a good opportunity right now. Like I really honestly believe with all my heart, this is the time where we're going to grow as churches. We're going to expand. Our finances are going to flow. I know many churches that are buying properties actually right now because they're inexpensive compared to what they were, particularly in the U.S. So I really honestly believe it's a time of expansion. We got to get the stupid, stinking world thinking out of our head and say, yeah, that's the world, that's not us. And part of that is focus. So more than ever before, it's so important to take a day or take 2 days or take a couple hours a week and just, it can be a struggle, but to focus and run through this template and really, really put it into action. Even if you're mid-year into your programs, budgets are set, stuff is rolling, you can put some of this stuff into play. Because, at the end of the day, I'm sitting here only because I want you guys, I hope that whatever I share or God uses me to share will make a difference and allow you guys to be more effective in what you do. That's the bottom line at the end of the day. How can we help you guys be more effective?
What is your church vision and mission?
Our church vision and mission is really long, and I would do well writing it. But it's to rescue a generation and to impact the community, province, and world. It's roughly, I wasn't involved in it, but that's essentially the focus of the 3 sentences. So I'm in that category, just for the record, of having long vision mission statements. Ours is pretty concise, relatively.
They use the word rescue in your church?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Our church is a little, there's some other churches like it, but our church is very solely focused on 30 and under. Having said that, there's lots of people 15 plus, but its main focus is 30 and under, and absolutely everything is done from the music, which is very loud in worship, to all the activities. So it's just a different. And we happen to have 7 boys that are under 16. So we based our decision to plant ourselves in a church that was youth-oriented, and the kids, thank God, it's actually interesting, I won't spend too much time on this, but I have a Catholic background, so we're not 3rd or 4th generation Christians, so our family wasn't believers for a long period of time. So when we looked at planting ourselves in a church, it's important to have a church the kids could immediately relate to and get involved. And I think off the top of my head, I think 6 out of the 7 are actively in volunteer teams and do stuff, and which is busy on Saturday nights. There's a bunch of services, but Saturday night and Sunday mornings, we're always running kids to the church. There's three of them that work every Sunday we drop them off at 7:45 and they work through to 2 o'clock through all the services. And they're the ones shaking us to get us up of the bed to go, so praise God. That time, we used to drag them to Mass, and that was just an awful thing. Not anything against Catholic, but it was just a really tough thing. So to have kids excited about going to church is absolutely amazing to me personally. Is that it? Okay, cool.
Cool. Thank you, Mark. It's great. How many people have found it beneficial just to think through? I think it's just so good as leaders just to continually, and it is hard work, like especially in the middle of the afternoon, it's like, but this is so important for us. And again, not only for our ministry context, but as I said at the beginning, I want us to think about these things holistically. And I think these are good things to do personally. What's my vision for my life? What has God called me to? What about my family? Now, I think you could do this for your family. You could do this personally. You could have a family vision, a family mission. So these things are transferable in every area of our lives. And so hopefully this is helpful to all of us. It's helpful to me, again, just to sit through and think through and keep going back to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our full 15 minutes. And so you will have 20 minutes too. But I'm going to ask you that you're right back here, right on time, okay? So we're running over just a little bit. Yes, Carolyn?
Coffee and water on the other side.
Coffee and water on the other side, so go ahead. You have a full 15 minutes, but we're going to start right away at 22, okay? So God bless you, and we'll see you back. Is it possible to shift this whiteboard up a bit more? Yeah. Put it back there. Actually, going to shift it up towards the audience more. Use that. Hope doesn't feel too disjointed jumping into a talk on physical health, but I'll do the best I can, especially as the last session. My name again is Mike Wilkinson, and it's a brief intro about me. I won't go into my life story, but God asked me to come do this because I work as a children's pastor part-time in Latin Christian Fellowship. But on top of that, I also have some other skills that, as a part-timer, you force yourself to develop. So as well, I also am a personal trainer. I contract myself out with certain organizations, have my own network of private clients. And as well, because that wasn't enough, I did a joint venture with a friend of mine, and we started a martial arts club together, a business together. So we have a few other different clubs here in the Lower Mainland. He teaches mainly in the Okanagan, but I teach here as much as doing. So been teaching and training for about 6 or 7 years, and love it. So get to meet a lot of people in the martial arts community as well. So it all kind of sprang out of the health and fitness. So that's just brief about me, that, and I do like long walks on the beach, too. I do. So, for this session, I thought, why don't we make it a little bit different? So I've been working with people with personal training for health for a number of years now, and I realized that it's never a lack of knowledge that helps people to move on. Yeah. So, first of all, actually, I just want to get a feel of you, because there's no point in me going into a talk about health when I don't know the health status of the people I'm talking to, that I want to support health. So, what we are going to do, even though I talk about physical health, please don't be deceived, because as most of us know, physical health is holistic health. So when I talk about health sometimes, I won't isolate it just to working out at the gym. It's going to be a holistic form of health, and I'll specify that. So what we're going to do is do a little activity, and this is just for me to be able to get a good reading of you guys and kind of where you're at as well, so I can just help you these next 20 minutes, 20-odd minutes. So here's what we're going to do. Everyone to stand up, wherever you are. Okay, is it okay if I have a waist? Stand up, just stay on it, all right? Okay. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do like 20 jumping jacks or anything. We're going to go for a jog around CLA. First one around there. There's going to be 4 categories, yeah? There's going to be strongly agree. Oh, sorry, actually, that's wrong. Actually, the other way around. It should be absolutely satisfied, yes. Satisfied. Dissatisfied. And absolutely dissatisfied. Okay? So absolutely satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied, and absolutely dissatisfied. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you feel comfortable, yeah, I'm going to ask this question. Here's the statement. And I want you guys to reflect on this and put it to yourself. I feel like my pace and health of my life is good. Or I like the pace and health of my life as a whole. Okay? And you're going to either absolutely agree, absolutely satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied, or absolutely dissatisfied. Okay?
So they can get holistic health. I'm not talking about necessarily just physical health or you eat or all that fun stuff. The statement is, I like my pace and health of life. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through it backwards. So if you are absolutely dissatisfied, I want you to sit down. Okay. So if you are just dissatisfied, I want you to sit down. Oh, wow. All right. If you are somewhat satisfied, I want you to sit down. All right. So the spotlight's on you. So you, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not counting myself, so I'm just standing here. So you 4 would say you are absolutely satisfied with your peace and health of your life. That's awesome. Not many people can say that. Okay, so I'll have you guys sit down. So it seems like most people here would dwell in this category, yeah? Dissatisfied? Do you guys agree? Yeah? Okay. All right, but that being said, there are some people that fall in every category. So what I'm going to do for the next 15 minutes is, instead of me standing here and saying things that you already know, like health is important, you should jog and go to the gym, eat healthy food. You know, I would assume that most of you guys know that. If you don't know that, then we might have to start back up at square one. But so what I am going to do instead of the next 15 minutes, I'm going to offer you a practical and principle philosophy-driven approach. That sound good? Yeah. So the goal would be that no matter where you are in the spectrum, you'll be able to leave with having some principles you can take with you and apply. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. Let's get started. So here's going to be our first point. It's only going to be 2 points today. Great. I'm just going to boil it, all the fitness stuff you've heard from many gurus, I'm going to boil it down to 2 statements, yeah. So here's the first one. And ironically enough, we've already heard this term today. Mission. Yeah. Now, I might not use it, and Mark had a great talk about vision and mission. Now, my definition of mission might be a bit different, so please bear in mind the context. It just might be a little bit different. Right? So here's what we're going to do. Who here feels bold to come up here for a second and do something with me? And not too tired at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Who would feel bold and have a little bit of fun and put in the spotlight? Okay. Well, it was Steph?
Sharon.
Sharon. Thanks, Sharon. Okay, Sharon, I need 2 more who feels like they want to have a bit of fun. Okay. Awesome. All right.
You're a fun girl.
Yeah, Michelle, you're a
fun girl.
Okay, so it's Sharon and Tom and Ann? All right, Sharon, Tom, and Ann. Okay, so I am putting a bit on the spot. Yeah, so we're going to have an umbrella of mercy over them because they are being put on the spot and they haven't really thought about this. But what I'd like you guys to do is I'd like you guys, if someone wants to ask you, why do you get up in the morning? What would you say? So someone's asked you, why do you get up in the morning? Or more specifically, why do you live? What's your purpose of living? What would you say in 1 sentence? A short sentence. Right? But thinking of periods, you can't just keep on going forever. So think about it for a second. And who would be comfortable going first? And Sharon?
I guess I'd have to say to continually search out what God's will in my life is.
Perfect. Nice and short. That's good. All right.
I'd say to continue to use my gifts that God has given me and everything that I can do, and to house like build it.
Sorry, as soon as you put an and, it's got to stop.
Okay.
All right. No, that's good. Okay. And finally, Ann.
I'm excited to have a new day from God.
Excited to have a new day. So the thought of possibility, anything could happen today.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. Everybody give them a big hand. That was awesome. Okay. So the reason why I did that little activity exercise is because there's no point, when I come to clients, we emphasize this right away, because there's no point of starting any kind of exercise program or even thinking about health if you have no idea what the mission of your life is. Fine. Believe it or not, people do not pursue health for health's sake. It's not true. The few people I've met that have tried to pursue health for health's sake, usually it's because their doctors forced them to. And there's no longevity. In fact, I heard a stat a couple weeks ago on Stats Canada, and check this out, but about 70% of heart patients, after they have a heart attack, about 70% of them go back to their old lifestyle after 6 months. 70%. They had a heart attack. And it was their lifestyle that had brought that heart attack about in these cases. So 70% of them, even though the doctor had said you can change certain things in your lifestyle to bring longevity to your life, 70% of them after about 6 months just reverted back to their old lifestyle. So right away you found that most people don't do health for health's sake. So the reason why I brought people up is because they have a mission. So for example, if Anne believes that her purpose is every day to discover the new day, to fully enjoy that, she might realize, I got to be healthy for it. Yeah. For Tom to be able to discover his gifts, he probably doesn't want to have a lifestyle that will possibly end his life at 40. He wants to realize his gifts all the way through his life. Yeah. So we start off with here. So if we're talking about physical health, we start there. Yeah. Last thing I'll say about that is just that the intrinsic motivation brings stickiness. So if you're able to discover this, no matter what endeavor you go on, it'll be more sticky, as opposed to you just doing something because your doctor told you to or because someone said you needed a hobby, because your pace of life is not balanced. Okay, so first one, it's mission. Second one is just simply movement. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention too is that if at any point you want to ask a question or offer a comment, feel free to do so. Even if you want to interrupt me with a hand. The only thing I would ask when I frame these question times is that just take a few seconds to think about it first to make sure that it's worded properly and that you think it'll be relevant to everyone. Yeah. I want to encourage questions. If you have any questions at any point, let me know. So second is movement. So let's say, for example, you say, my mission is I want to make sure that I develop myself. We'll take a chance. Say, I want to make sure that I develop myself, my gifts, so that when I'm 60 and 70, I can keep giving back to the world for Christ, for His kingdom. Fill in the blank. Right. So he's distinguished that. So he realizes, okay, so because I have to make sure that I have a healthy lifestyle that helps me to get to be 60 or 70 to discover all my gifts, right? So we get to movement, because once you have a mission, the movement will kind of usually come on its own, right? You might pick up a flyer on kayaking and go, ooh, I like kayaking, or you might, you meet a guy who does a seminar, he says he's a martial arts instructor, you go, ooh, martial arts, sounds exciting, I should talk to him afterwards. But you'll probably find something quite quickly to move yourself along. You might see a gym membership, or someone might say, hey, come with me to a gym class, or you might find a book on health and eating. So the movement usually comes quite quickly. Movement usually happens as soon as this is here. This is like fuel, and then you start moving. So, but there is something else, which is people start moving, but pretty soon you encounter obstacles to your movement. Yeah, you encounter roadblocks. So quickly, who here has ever been or is currently engaged in any kind of health gym plan or eating plan or something where it's physical health, your hand up. If you've ever been involved in something like that before. Okay. So you guys will be very relevant to you guys. What are some of the obstacles that have stopped you? Just list them out. Okay, lack of time. Biggest one. Lack of time. I'll draw a little clock. That's a clock. A little 12 at the top. That's a clock. Okay. Lack of time. What else?
Exhaustion.
Sorry?
Exhaustion.
Okay, so lack of energy. How would I throw a little energy drink? Red Bull. I won't go into that rant about energy drinks. Okay. So lack of energy is another one. You're exhausted, you're home in the day, and the last thing you want to do is go to the gym or make dinner, for example. What else?
My own excuses.
Like what? What are your own excuses?
I guess like time. And it's always me. It's always me that stops me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
So I think time. These are all just excuses I have.
Okay. Okay. No money.
Man, I would love to do that Pilates class, but man, they're asking like $100 a month for registration. Just can't afford it.
The rain.
The rain? Look at the weather. Sometimes like, oh, I could go for a jog and walk the dog, but oh, it's raining outside. I can't do that. And so there's no one back there yet.
I missed what I have to give up.
Okay, so
Like vote for us.
Whoops, yeah. so sacrifice. So just doesn't seem as good. You want to give up the stuff. I'm not quite sure how to draw that. That's not talking about actually. Of course, that came from not from a guy. A guy would go chocolate. What? I remember I heard I got an email once the difference between men and women, and one of them is that for the men's side, it said men believe that chocolate is just another food, whereas women believe it's so much more. It's not just a snack. It's actually it's an experience, right? Okay, so not being willing. So weighing the options, not seeing it's worth it because you give up some stuff. It's not fun. Okay. So I will give to you guys a quote. So these are obstacles you guys have set that have probably even derailed you. So I will give you a quote that was given to me that's helped me, and that, if appropriate, I will give to some of my clients. And this is the quote, and I'll say it right here. And maybe you've heard this quote, maybe not, but I will write it here. Is that big enough? Very hard to get some people to understand that. Right? You guys feel okay? Excuses are lies we tell ourselves. So kind of similar to what Bennett said, is that really you can only stop you. Now this was an epiphany for me a while ago because I realized that's so true. Excuses are lies I tell myself. So what I've done, I'll just tell you personally what I've done. You might not agree with this, that's okay. But what I have done is I've been intentional to structure my vocabulary so that I try to make sure that the following phrases never come out of my mouth. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. It's just too hard. So instead of saying that, I don't have the time, for example, and some of my friends will be able to vouch for this, I will just say, and sometimes it catches people off guard, so I'll say, that's not a priority for me. Because isn't that true? It's not that you don't have the time. Last time I checked, we all had 24 hours in a day. The reality is it's not that we don't have the time, it's the reality it's not a priority. So if you want to succeed in your health endeavors, one of the first steps is that as you're moving, be honest with yourself. And if an excuse comes up, realize that it's a lie. And maybe even be honest with yourself. Maybe even just being honest and saying, you know, the honest truth is, I don't value that. That's not a priority for me. And that's okay. But at least you're being honest with yourself. Right. That's good. So the last thing I will say as my time comes to a close is just that. And I tell this to a lot of my first clients, a lot of my students for martial arts, is that any movement is good movement. Yeah. So I will leave you guys with that thought, is that when it comes to your health endeavors, because a lot of you were in the D quadrant, you said that. And if you have a mission for your life and you realize, I don't want to stay in the D quadrant, I want to actually be satisfied in that life, then I would say to you, any movement is good movement. Easier to steer cars moving than a parked car. Yeah, it's going to readjust. So what I will do is, I'm going to ask Kirsten, can you come up for a second? Kirsten's actually one of the team members at our church who works at the Kids Ministry, and she's wearing a pumpkin shirt today.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
So what I'm going to ask Kirsten to do is ask Kirsten just to help us out. And it basically is, it's a life awareness questionnaire. And so instead of getting you guys to fill us out here and taking up time, you can just take it home. And all it is just 11 questions that help us produce honesty, self-honesty. And the goal would be is that if any movement is good movement, after you look at this, you might say, I want to focus on this one or two. Instead of typing all 11, you might say, for example, one of them is, I regularly get between 7 to 8 hours of deep sleep at night. Who would say they get 7 to 8 hours of deep sleep at night? Put your hand up. Awesome stuff. Wow, that's great. So some of you might say, no, that's not me. So that might be one of your 11 that you want to focus on, yeah. But this is just a tool for you guys, a resource, yeah. So I'll ask Kirsten, if you maybe just hand those up to some tables, that'd be great. And as I come to close, any questions, comments, thoughts?
How does it affect us spiritually or believers?
The physical health?
Yeah, just tie that together for us.
Good question. Well, what do you guys for a second? What do you guys think? Does physical health impact spiritual health? And if so, can you give us an example of when you've experienced that?
Now your physical health affects your emotional health, which often is tied with your positive spiritual views. Like, you go for a good exercise, you will pick yourself up a bit, feel a little bit more positive. Your outlook's positive, but you're probably more conducive to faith as opposed to just doubt, criticism, and negative.
Yeah. One of the areas that I see it most prevalent in my life is that when you're a children's or a youth pastor, mentoring is mentoring should always be an important part of your job, but it's something that's very evident that that's what you're supposed to do. Thanks, Kristen. Is mentor. For me, because my need is quiet time, if I don't take care of my physical health, if I don't exercise, if I don't eat right, if I don't get enough sleep, for example, I'm cranky. And it doesn't matter how much time I spend with people, my question would be is how effective is the time I'm spending with them? 10 minutes of healthy, good time where they're getting a good, positive role model, or am I spending hours with them and they're seeing a kind of worn out person that they wouldn't want to role model after? So I would see that happen in my own life, especially like in mentoring, but there's a lot of areas where there's a lot of crossover, definitely. Yeah.
I have found that in certain activities like jogging or walking if you're going to the beach or whatever, that I often, if I find myself, it becomes a prayer time. So the opportunity changes. Working out in the gym doesn't do that for me. Running on a treadmill, I don't mind. I'm sitting there looking at the cars going by or whatever. Right? But if you're often in creation, I find that really improves that opportunity.
Yeah. Sweet. Question, Ben?
Just related to it is, I think that, like, I spend a long time sort of running from the idea of trying to do personal health, and sort of a lot of times it doesn't happen until there's a problem, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's connected to spiritual health because it's really taking responsibility for your life. A lot of people use physical things as excuses, like you said, and it affects how you are spiritually when you can't sort of look yourself in the mirror and be happy with what you see, and when you know you're making choices and it's like you don't have control over your food choices or your life choices, that affects you spiritually too, and how you deal with temptation and sin. And there's also lots of connections between eating and comfort, and lack of exercise and comfort. And I think our society, comfort is an idol that is a huge idol in our society, and we get our comfort outside of the Holy Spirit in so many ways. And food can be a comfort, TV can be a comfort. A lot of these are the things that contribute to poor physical health.
Yeah.
And none of those things are evil, but I really believe that when you go into a place of really training your body for battle, so to speak, like Paul said, I beat my body, I make it my slave. It challenges those emotional connections you have to things that you're getting comfort from that are not the Lord, and it really really changes you. So
yeah,
that's the connection I see.
That's right. Yeah. And when we run that path of being unhealthy, neglecting the physical health, like we were saying, what are some of the things we say to justify it? Doing the work of the Lord. You know, that's what God wants of me. He wants me to pour into this. So then we got to confront those questions head on. Yeah.
First of all, you said your definition of mission might be different than what we did. I didn't care what your definition was.
Yeah, because a lot of the time I didn't really go into it. I kind of let people kind of just discover it. I didn't really give a definition. The definition I kind of gave was just why do you get up in the morning, or why do you do what you do. It was more of a why question. Yeah, as opposed to more of a belief. Vision was the the what, and mission was the how. Yeah, is that correct? Okay. Give me that look like, no. Okay, that's good. All right. So I got that, yeah. That's kind of lucky to get a mission. And mission, what do you do for your life? What's your purpose? What's your purpose of the context I was going? Cool. I'm here for the rest of the night, so I'd love to meet you. If you got a specific question that's related to you, I'm hanging around. So if you have questions, just feel free to ask me. I won't charge you for the hour. So, that's available as well. So thanks, guys, and I hope that philosophy principle helps. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Patrick. Excellent. Good stuff. And this is great. You know, when Carolyn and I were discussing just this track, and we just both felt it was important just to really round it out in the sense of leadership, because you know, Ben, those were some good thoughts. I've never thought of comfort as an idol in our culture. I've never thought of it, you know, kind of the way you phrased it. And that's really good. And I really believe that physically is so connected to us as leaders, you know, how we are disciplining ourselves physically next to our spiritual disciplines. And again, just looking at kind of the overarching theme for this section, is just of balance and finding places. It's almost like, where's the sweet spot in our leadership? When you play tennis, you know, right in the middle of that racket, that's the sweet spot. Have you ever played a sport where you've connected with the ball? Baseball or whatever, there's a sweet spot. When you golf, there's one part of that club where the ball goes further and it's easier. There's an easiness. There's an ease about it, right? And I think balance in leadership is that sweet spot where we can get into a place of understanding that God has called us as leaders, not as a sprint, and you know, where we burn ourselves out, and then we crash and burn. How many crash and burn stories have you heard of? How many people have crashed and burned? How many people have been right on the edge? I know myself, I've been right on the edge a couple times where my emotions are like, I'm on top of the world, I'm ready to resign. Those are signs to me of you're getting close to burnout. And physically, it is such an important aspect to pay attention to, because we have to look at things as a marathon. God wants us to succeed. That's why Paul, you know, I run the race, you know, and you know, I run for the prize, and there's metaphors, you know, that he uses, and I think those are good things for us to pick up and to integrate into our lives. What I wanted to do now is I think we'll shift and we'll show the video right at the end, because what I want to do now is, since Mike has gone first, I want to just give you just a quick thought looking at planning and balance. And this has been something that has helped Heather and I so much in leadership and just life and balance. You know, we've been in the youth, young adult, children's, family ministry for about 15 years, working in the local church and now recently in our district context. But we've come close to burnout a few times, but I think what is really one of the things that when we found this kind of helped us, and it pushed us to a whole new level in the area of balance in our lives. And it was a guy that I originally saw, and I won't do him justice because his whole session was like an hour on this. But I'm going to give you like a 5-minute, 10-minute overview. But I think even just these basic principles will help you, and when you're looking at planning. So the guy that I heard this from the first time and saw this demonstration was a fellow named Bob Beal, and he's like a leadership life coach kind of guy, and he gave us this session. And like Mark used to charge, thanks Mark for doing it for free today. It was, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. He'd meet with executives and CEOs, and so he came and did this for a bunch of pastors, which was great. And I was part of that group. And I took this home, and I thought, man, this is incredible. So it's very simple also, but it's like a wheel of some kind. And Mark was kind of talking about the pie chart. It's something similar, but it's a little bit different. And so it's in the context of planning and balance. How do you spell balance? B-A-L? It's not too. You know, I need to go back to school sometimes. Where am I without my spell check? All right. So what Bob talked about is in life. You know, this circle would represent kind of a year of your life. And first let me say, I think it is good for us to plan long term. How many of us plan week by week? You know, I've been in ruts like that where it's like, okay, well, it's Thursday. Boy, what am I doing this weekend? You know, what am I going to prepare for my lesson? And we can get into a rut, and that causes stress. And it's not good for us as leaders because we don't get our stride that way. We just keep on more stress. So Bob says, look at your year, and he says the very first thing that you should plan in your year is you need to prioritize is family and refreshing. This is not the last thing you plan. This is the first thing you plan. Now, for years, that's the last thing. It's like, oh, we got this, we got that conference, we got this thing, we got this. And at the end of it, maybe, it looks like we have 5 days off there. Maybe we can take a holiday. But you know, we got to get the kids to the dentist, so let's take a 3-day holiday, and then it shortens. And then, how many of us have been there, okay? So family and refreshing. And so what you do is you look at your year, and so this is January. January, you know, February, March, April, May, you know, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay, whatever, all right?
Summer's huge.
Yeah, it's a long summer. Right? That's the point. All right, so now January, okay, hey, my wife and I, we have an anniversary in February, okay? So we're going to go away for 2, you know, well, let's say 2 weeks. No, 2 nights. Sorry. Okay, so just bear with. Okay, just keep in mind. Okay, just get the, you know, my drawing is not going to be per scale. Okay, so my wife and I are going to get away for 2 nights. It's our anniversary, and we're going to go away. We're going to get babysitters. We're just going to do that because that's important to us. Okay. Now, spring break, the kids are out of school, so we're going to take 1 week of that 2-week spring break. And you know what? We're not going to go anywhere. We're just going to stay home. But we're going to unplug the phone. We're going to do day trips with the kids. But that's going to happen. Summer, we're going to take our holidays in the summer. You know, this time we're going to go away. We're going to go to see, you know, Disneyland or whatever. That's how I spelled Disneyland. Okay. So these are the things. These are the first things that we plan. And maybe there's another little break here or a weekend, okay, that you get away. And so you determine, okay, what's going to bring me family and refreshing. Maybe my dad, he's getting older, and so I value having lunch with him once every couple of months. So I'm going to put in time for my dad there too. So my dad, you know, I'm going to put in time where I connect with my dad throughout the year because that's a value. That's very important to me. And so you see, you know, my kids have a soccer tournament happening over here, so it's soccer. Okay, so you're planning your calendar out with those are the most important things you do. So things that will bring me refreshment, times I can look forward to with my family, with my wife, with my kids, with my mom, with my dad, with my friends. Just those are so important. And the second thing is, and this could be spiritual growth. This could be attending a conference. You know, it's going to bring me refreshing. Okay. Second thing, though, it is work related because we can't ignore. Okay, so we can't ignore our work because we get paid, right? But as much as possible, then we look at the rest of the year, and we'll use orange just to help. Okay, so then we say, okay, well, you know what? Our church has a conference every January, so we got to be home for that. Okay. You know, our church has an outreach in the summer. It's a VBS, so we're going to be a part of that for sure. Or if it ends up here, you say, well, we need to shift our holidays to here. So you work with these things together first. So you make sure that your big stuff at work, okay, you know, we have to be here on Sundays, whatever, so that, you know, those weekends. And so you find your work and you build in the big commitments that you have at work, okay? And then the third thing is is you plan in basically everything else. That's kind of how it goes. And if there are important things to you, like physical exercise and whatever, you've done this, but now you can kind of go and you can take the year in shorter blocks. And you can say, okay, this January to, March, and you can plan it out and et cetera, et cetera. And you fit in everything else. And within this everything else, also blocking in for yourself just extra free time. Extra free time. Where you can, it's flexible time. So you can kind of go either way. Now, for example, crisis happens in life. It would be nice to plan our lives like this and everything goes, but you know how it goes. All of a sudden, maybe there's an aunt or something that passes away, there's a funeral, and it happens right in the middle of your vacation. What do? We end up not taking the vacation. Go back and say, this is a priority, so let's go to the funeral, let's reschedule the vacation. Make sure that we build our lives with these building blocks. And again, Bob's whole explanation of it was much more thorough than this. But this has helped Heather and I so much. And so what we do is probably, Monday or Tuesday nights, most weeks, maybe every couple weeks, Heather and I will sit down in the evening and we'll get our calendars and we'll synchronize them. We've already got these major things in together because we do that a couple times a year as well, where we do it in January and then, you recap it again. But then when we sit down with our calendars, we synchronize. It's like, okay, well, the kids have swimming. Okay, this is a time that, we're going to get away for a date night. This is, there's time coming up here. We've got a conference that we're both attending. We need babysitting for this. We've got the dance recital this night. And so we look at our week in smaller bite-sized chunks, but we've already filled it with the major building blocks. And that is just one thing. It's just a couple ideas and some thoughts that as leaders, that has helped Heather and I so much, just kind of move to a whole new level. When you fail to plan, somebody said, you plan to fail. I think it's John Maxwell maybe, I don't know. But I think that's a great concept. And so, so I just wanted to show that to you. Hopefully that's a helpful kind of, just gets you in that position of thinking those kind of things through. And again, because we're going for balance and we're going for things that will strengthen us as leaders and give us energy in the long haul. What I want us to do now is we have just a little bit of time left. The session ends, when does it end? Really quick. When? It ends now? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll roll the video. If you're interested in staying and watching, 20 minutes. If you're not, then we can just dismiss you. So why don't we just pray? Why don't we just pray and dismiss you, and then for anybody who's interested. The other thing is, if you don't want to watch the video, it's okay. You can pick up. This will be in your bookstores, probably Chapters and everywhere. And the next little bit is called Marcus Buckingham: The Truth About You. And again, it's not available right now. So if you are interested in watching it now, just to get an idea, you're welcome to. I'll just let it roll as we break. So it's a completely optional thing. But otherwise, you can pick that up shortly. I recommend it. It's a great resource. So we're going to pray together. It's been a long afternoon, and there's so many great things. It's hard to jam it all in sometimes, but you guys have been awesome. It's been great to just be able to share this time together, and I just hope that my heart is that you would take some of these things, that God would use these things to keep building you as a leader yourself, that you would grow in leadership and just become everything that God's called you to be, looking at areas of what do I value and how does this work, and how do I put together a mission, how do I actually fulfill those dreams that God's put in my heart, and then how do I stay balanced and refreshed in the long haul? How do I take these things with a big picture approach and run the race that God's called me to run? And so why don't we stand up together, let me pray for you, and we'll go and have a break, and eat some food, and have some good fellowship. Okay? So Father, I thank you, Lord, today that you are in control of our lives. And God, our desire is, and our mission truly is, that we would fulfill your will. That at every level possible, we would live in your sweet spot, Lord, the center of your will. And God, I thank you today that you've brought this group of leaders together. I pray, Lord, that we would again just be encouraged and inspired and empowered by your Spirit. Lord, to lay hold of this dream that you've called us to. Lord, we admit we get weary, we get confused, we lose sight of the vision sometimes, but Lord, that you would renew the vision again within us, that you would show us clearly the passions that you put in our heart and what you've called us to, that you would help us, Lord, to take steps as leaders to grow and to become leaders that lead at a whole new level. You would help us, Lord, to lead ourselves, Lord, as you lead us, that you would give us permission, Lord, that we would give ourselves permission to pour into ourselves as leaders, that we would grow, that we'd be more effective in your kingdom, able to lead up and lead those, Lord, that would follow. And we pray, God, that your kingdom would advance. I pray for every children's ministry represented here today. I pray you would bless it, encourage, and strengthen the leadership. And, Lord, just be a wind in our sails now, Lord, as we hoist our sails in faith. I pray you would breathe into them, Holy Spirit, Lord, with these new tools, with these new tactics, with these new thoughts, Lord, as you are renewing our mind according to your word. Lord, that you would help us to be able to find your will, test your will, know your good and your perfect and pleasing will in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. God bless you. And I want to thank Mike and thank Mark for coming as guests as well.
For all of our kids in our kids ministry.
Cool.
So we partnered with the parents that way by giving them a Bible that we use with our curriculum.
Awesome.
Along with it, so they have a take-home sheet that they work with the family sheet, and then I also send emails to the families letting them know what scriptural works we're working on and that kind of thing.
Very cool. Very cool. What are some other things that we're doing to partner with our community and the people around us, and even parents?
We live in a community which is safety is a huge concern.
Okay.
So we've partnered with an organization that is, with actually an insurance company that is providing safety kits for our kids. So
Really?
discs that are, you upload your information, and it's something that the parent carries, that if you lose your child, you can go into any computer, ask somebody to upload it, this is who we're looking for.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very cool. What else? What are some other things that we're doing partnership-wise?
We're working towards, in our kids ministry, we use a curriculum in our community.
Okay.
On a 2 basis, on our Sunday mornings, and so in between our 2 services, we're working on creating a family experience.
Okay.
Where the parents and families come down together and where the kids learning part of the
That's great.
history and stuff, and then they can go home and live that.
Okay.
So,
It's good. You know, and even starting out, just trying to move in the direction that you'd like to do it. You know, if you do your family service once a quarter, that's great partnership. You know, North Point, I think in their curriculum said do it every week, but they're not even doing it every week anymore because it's too hard to sustain it. So that's good. Other thoughts about partnership that you've seen or that your church, you just say, this is great?
There's a couple of girls in the church here, and some of them said that's good.
Okay.
Just, the parents always involved. Some of them,
Good. Very good. Well, there's about 3 areas that I want to focus on. Partnership with our community, partnership with our parents, and partnership with our kids. So as we kind of talk through this today, I want to give you some of my thoughts on partnership. Successful children's ministry creates partnership. Meaning that, and I think it's on a couple of different levels. It's even within our church. We network with the different ministries that are happening. We're partners with our ministries. We're partners with each other. You can't really have a children's ministry if you're all doing different things. So it's important that we're all partners together. Connection, relationship, and trust are the basis for any partnership. So finding a way to connect. If you find a way in your community to connect, that suddenly starts to form a partnership. If an agency comes to you and says, you know what, we've got this need, all of a sudden you're connected. The relationship, there's so much that happens out of relationship. When you build relationships with your community, I think you were in our Character Connects, where you've got a relationship built with your schools, and you're able to just walk in, and those schools will open the doors to you. So finding a relationship, that means looking outside of our 4 walls when it comes to partnering with our community. We're working together, the same goals in sight, all of the same kids. Like if you look at the kids that our public schools are ministering to, or not minister, they don't minister, sorry. If you look at the kids that are in our public schools and the kids that we're ministering to, it's the same kids. So why not partner together to help them to get the education and then be able to minister on the same level and be able to minister to those kids? To partner, you have to understand the needs of the people that you serve. Our actions and our programming must match what we're trying to accomplish. So if we're saying, hey, we want to partner, then it's got to be a beneficial thing for both sides. A partnership is beneficial both sides. It's not the church going out and saying, what can we get from you? It's what can we give to you? And how can we be good partners? And how can we work together to meet the needs? And that's the same even in our ministries. If you're trying to partner with youth ministry, it's not, well, I'm going to take in this relationship. I want to give. And we want to be able to bless you and help you with that. Partnership is built by service. So when we serve others, that's how we build partnership. And I think it can also be partnership. Partnership needs to be woven into the fabric of our church and of our ministries. So it changes our whole outlook. When we sit as a church and we say, okay, we want to look at what needs in our community that nobody's meeting. And we want to look out. What are some things that come to your mind when we say the word partnership? What are some things? When I say the word partnership, partnering with your community, with your kids, your parents, what comes to mind? What's that? More than one, okay?
Working together in the same direction.
Okay. What else comes to your mind when we say partnership?
It's hard work.
Hard work? Yeah.
Pooling resources.
Resources. Sharing resources back and forth. That's good. What's that? Advancing. That's great. Moving together. You're advancing together. That's awesome. What else comes to your mind? Unity. That's good. Very good. Other thoughts that come to your mind when you hear the word partnership? Okay, let's take it from just the theory to how would it play out in your community. Okay, when you're looking at partnership, partnering with your community. Okay, there's some things that I think we can look at there. Why do we need to partner with our community? What's your feedback? Why do you think the church needs to partner with the people around you in your community? What's your thoughts on that? I told you you're going to do a lot of talking, so get ready. Because to me, I go, when we sit down in a session like this, we can all learn from each other. So what are your thoughts? What do you think? Why do we need to partner as a church with our community?
I think so you maybe see the relevance of the church, maybe not on a spiritual level, but on other different levels.
Okay, that's good. What is it?
The church needs to be viable.
Yes.
It's not just a building. There's
Right.
actual life. There's people that are in there that live in communities. So we're naturally in communities.
Right. Andy Stanley from North Point gives us a good object lesson when it comes to this. The church is like a ladder. Okay? And what we're good at is taking the rungs out of the ladder. And everybody that's been in church for your whole life and you've been in this whole system and you know the rhetoric and you know church life and all of that, we're all at the top of the ladder. Okay? People that are joining the church and just coming in and are lost and stepping into our churches, they're at the bottom of the ladder and they go, man, I want to get where you're at, but there's no rungs in between. We've taken out the rungs. And how do we do that? By not partnering, by sitting where we're at and not making it easy to include people, to make it viable. So I always sit and say, we need to put the rungs back into the ladder to help them to become the people that God's calling them to be. And how do we do that? It's by partnering. It's by giving them opportunity. It's by, you walk into a church for the very first time, you don't know anybody there, and you walk in and you go, I'm lost. Think about how daunting that would be. If you walk into your church tomorrow, you've never been there before, you're lost, how would you even get plugged in and how would you even get connected? And I think it happens with partnership. It happens with us stepping out and saying, okay, you know what, we want to bring you into our church. We want to show you that it's viable. We want to show you that it's not a scary place. When you think of the perception of church in your communities today, what would be that perception? What do you think people perceive church as in your community today?
They tell us we have to start. We thought you had to be a member. You had to buy membership.
Well, hey, good new fundraiser. Yeah. We're always looking for fundraisers. Yeah, membership has its privileges. Right. Right. And it's really good. How many of you spend time around unsaved people? I think it's very good that we do. And we say, what do you perceive church? What's your perception? So what else? What do you think other people perceive the church as? Why?
Good,
That's very good. It's true. And it's the whole, I have to laugh. There was a pastor telling a story about they were building a new AIDS hospital for single moms with babies that had been born down in Florida. And the church was just giving them a lot of hard time with it, saying we can't do that. We can't minister to those kind of people, which I think is hilarious, those kind of people. And finally, he got up and he said in a business meeting, he said, you know what, we have gossip and slanderers that sit in this church all day long, and they have no problem living in their sin. But when we try to reach out to moms who have babies that have AIDS, then we have a problem. You know, it's kind of interesting because we are perceived that way. What else? What else is another perception of church?
I think a lot of people feel they're going to be judged when they go to a church.
Yeah, very true. Very true. What else? Any other thoughts on that?
Or do I need to go to one more activity during the week?
Yeah. What does it benefit our family? Having true partnership with the community and being out, showing them that you're normal, that you're not going to judge them, that you're that you're there for them as a church, will break down all of these barriers. If you can have interaction, and it happens by serving. So really, in your neighborhoods and in your areas, how are you going to serve? What kind of a need is there that you could partner and you could put together to say, okay, we're going to partner with our community to meet this need and break down those barriers. And I think we have to start thinking of those kind of terms. The best way to be successful in partnering is find a need and meet it. Very simple. Find a need and meet it. Okay? Now, I might step on your toes, but like I said, I leave tomorrow, so if you're mad at me, we all have to live together in heaven, so we'll have to get over it. Okay? Let's say you do VBS. Throw that out. Okay? And you go, that's the way we partner with our community. Well, I just want to give you a little newsflash. Every other church in your city is doing VBS. And you're probably all doing the same one. Okay? Now, if it works for you, that's great. But you're not meeting the need. So maybe we sit down and we say, okay, to partner, we're going to go a totally different direction. We're going to do something that nobody else is doing. Maybe it's going to be a sports camp. You know what? We're going to totally change around what we're doing to meet the needs of our community. We know that there's a need for kids to be involved. We want to give them a natural way to get involved. VBS takes a lot of time, a lot of resources. Maybe we're going to go a different direction and partner in a different way. You see what my line of thinking is? Everybody's doing what you're doing, then everybody's meeting the same need, and you're not meeting the needs that are all around you. So as a church, we have to step out and think, okay, how are we going to intentionally partner with our community? God's called us to partner. When you go after the lost, the Lord meets your needs as a church, brings new excitement to your workers in your church. So we're partnering with our community to really give them opportunity to come into your church and to really reach the lost. And some churches go, well, we can't really partner. We don't have the resources. We're too small. I say you can't afford not to partner. Even if it's on a small level, even if it's doing like a block party at your church, and say, you know what, we're going to do what we can do, and we're going to start to partner, because I think you'll start to grow. You'll start to see God do some amazing things and really do some incredible things with your church. It brings a new excitement to your church. Okay? When we start to partner with the community and you start to see, let's say you go into your public schools and you're successful doing school assemblies with Character Connects, all of a sudden your church begins to get excited. All of a sudden there's new life in your church. We stagnate when we're not out in our community. As a church, we stagnate when we don't look outside of our four walls and we don't look to meet needs of kids and families in your community. So as a church, when we're partnering, when you see somebody turn their life around, that brings excitement. And that's how we do that. We partner together with other churches, with other agencies, and say, let's bring the lost into our church. There's people in your community that desperately need your church and the hope that Jesus offers. They might have an idea of saying, you know, church is scary, but they need you, and they're searching for it. So if there's a way that we can partner and bring them in, I think it's a huge thing. There's people that are desperately needing your church and the hope that Jesus gives them. And what I look at it in a partnership is it's a bridge that we're building. They're here, we're here, and there's a major breakdown that they can't cross a lot of times. And we go, hey, if you'll just come into church, well, we don't have a bridge to get them there. So if we can get a bridge by partnering, and you know, when we hear the word partnering, there's a couple of different things when it comes to community. Whether we're partnering with other agencies or we're partnering with those people to get them into our church. And saying, partnering by meeting their needs, by serving them, by helping them. Our hearts should break when we think of the lost in our city. We should be doing all that we can as a church to really be building a bridge. Why do we want to reach kids outside? There's only about a 14% chance that a child will give their heart after the age of 9. The other thing that parents need is they need help desperately to raise their kids. Parents are seeking that. They're saying, hey, can you help me to be better parents? So maybe an area of need that you could really partner with your community is by providing parenting classes. And say, you know what, that's how we're going to partner. There was a church in Oregon, I talked about this last night, one of my classes, but there was a church in Oregon that would just set up a sign on their lawn that said free parenting classes. phone number, sign up. Every time they did that, the church, it was packed. Parents would call in by the droves because they needed help. So it's really getting creative and finding a way to meet the need in your area. So I'd like to take about 5 minutes at your table and just kind of brainstorm and talk about maybe some of the needs that you view in your area and how you could meet those needs. No one else, want to look for needs that no one else is meeting and say, okay, how could we partner? And even put together just a little quick idea of saying, here's the need, and then how could we meet that need? How could we help serve that need as a church? Maybe you're from different churches, so there'll be a couple of different ideas. Maybe you're from the same team. Figure out what the need is in the community and then how you can partner with other people to meet that need. Take about 5 minutes and we'll share that. There's some notes right there. Yeah, they did like a hot breakfast. Supper, he was there, he was getting and I also think they need to break down the status of especially with the rural, and also with the rural population as well. The week ago, our kids could go back to school. So I'm saying, we would have put up things, so the country school up there, that's great, that's 50-50, that's very good thing. So even there, they can like, what's really giving me a feedback, this is the sense that see that technically it's the right word, but it's just people stick to their own, right? So and I thought that even if we actually think our success is or usually gets more generous. We know that the girls will be involved in that. We really try to take real soft.
Yeah.
about 1 minute. This one's fine. Yeah. Thanks.
This one's called up.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to just hear from you, maybe from each group, what are some of the needs that are coming out, and how do you feel like you could meet those needs? And we'll start right back here. What kind of came out in your table of some needs that you noticed in your community, and what are some ideas on how to meet those? So pick a spokesman, by the way.
But ours is actually kind of in a really good situation because we just had the opportunity to start working with the chief of police.
Oh, cool.
And so one of our pastors met with him, and it's not unique in that if we speak it out, it's probably there, but he said, like, if you're ready to help, like an action step on board, this is what we need. We need after-school programs for teenagers. Can you open up this awesome youth facility that you have every day after school and have something there? And like, he just started listing exactly what they're looking for. And he said, if you're ready to work with us, we've got lots of things and we'll work with you.
So how are you working? Is that just in the beginning, or how are you working through that?
Brand new, and this is just in the last couple of weeks. So we're pretty excited as staff, and just, there's been, recently in our area, down in the Lower Mainland, there's all of this gang stuff, right? And so it's really opening up people's eyes that maybe we aren't in safe Bible Belt anymore. Like, there's a lot of things going on that we aren't aware of. And so the community's starting to move. People are ready to see things happen. And so it's really time for us to not sit back anymore. And
Good.
so it's really cool. And we're just, it's a task force they're building. And so we're going to just partner with them and
Wow.
see what we can do. So,
I think we're in a new era of partnership when it comes to communities, when it comes to people looking to the church for help. And it's really changed because we see that starting to happen where the government agencies, they don't know how to deal with the social issues. They're good at paying the welfare and making sure that people have food, but they don't know how to deal with the social side of things. And I think that if we're willing and open to partnering, there's going to be more opportunities just like that coming. We just have to be open to it. And when it happens, seize that moment and say, okay, we're going to do this. And we're going to really, that's awesome. Very awesome. What about here?
We actually have at our church started dance classes for the community.
Okay.
Little girls, and we have teenage girls volunteering their time to teach the classes, so the cost is very minimal.
Wow.
And they do recital at the end of our term. And we have seen an outcry from the community. People from the community coming in droves and dropping off their girls. And the moms actually often will sit around and wait for that hour just in our foyer. And
Really?
we just said, well, why don't we use that time and offer some, healthy eating or something.
Yeah.
Just something more informal, but
That's good.
just bless the moms too. And what was the other thing? Oh, the fireproof thing. It's in a community. Like, secular people are really into this fireproof movement. We thought somehow we could blitz the community right now while it's hot and have a forum or have something, at church that's for the community.
That's good. We did, our church did that probably about a month ago where they shook fireproof. 125 people got saved. Got saved at that event.
How did you advertise that? How did you get them in there?
They advertised it through the radio, and they advertised it through, how else, Paul, did they advertise it? Because I was just in town for the movie park,
it
so.
was over the radio, definitely, through their video announcements, and through flyers that went home with the kids to the children's ministry to the parents.
Well, and one of the strategies our church has is that they always throw out the lifeline, no matter what service you're in. So they always give people a chance to get saved. And what that does is it creates an opportunity that you know when you bring your unsaved friends to church, there's always going to be a chance that they get saved. So it's kind of been built into the fabric of our church that you know. The church runs, I think there was 1,500 people saved last year, and the church has grown by 1,500. So, and it's built into that whole fabric of, yeah, we're going to partner with the community, but then we're also going to build a fabric into who we are as always throwing out the lifeline. I think that's important, especially when you're talking about partnership. So, what about back here on the couch? They're asleep. We got to wake them up. No, just kidding.
We're from different churches.
Okay.
Both of our churches are in more low-income
Okay.
family areas and lots of homeless population. So we talk about India as well as always food. Always seems to bring
That even helps in good affluent areas. So if you feed them, they will come.
That's right. In our church, we have them like parenting classes and financial classes. We always offer dinner, but that brings people in. We also have a really strong partnership with our local elementary school.
Okay.
Close to school. And we have a relationship now. They call us up and he's like, we need this, we need this. We go in on they do like a booster camp week where they need volunteers to come in and help with kids, and we provide all the staff for that. And we run an after-school program there and then do monthly family dinners for those families. So really a great connection with the local school.
Yeah. How was that built?
Like originally?
Yeah.
We had one of our ladies on staff just went in and said, how can we serve you? Like, we're right here, what can we do?
Wow. And that just opened the door. The door's
Yeah.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Sometimes that's all the question we need to ask. How can we serve you? How can we help? And people are shocked. I mean, you're not asking for anything. You're not asking for donation. No, we just want to serve you. What about up here?
We did, for middle school, they did a breakfast program. I don't think it was much lately, but to help serve breakfast for middle school in the city. The other thing is hopefully having a basketball camp this summer.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, and my challenge would be if you have something for the girls, make sure you have something for the boys too. So like the dance class, if there's something you could do boy-wise, maybe a Wii tournament or paintball camps or, I don't know what you do, but something to really pull the boys in too, because I think if we can focus on both, I love the idea of the ballet thing. I don't know what would draw boys in. Something that, definitely active sports. The sports thing seems to be a huge deal right now. Gospel Publishing House, who the people I work for, actually put out a sports camp in a package that you can do. It's through WordCom here in Canada, but it's a week-long sports camp that has all of the gospel side to it that really opens, and families have just come in droves to do sports camp. So, and part of that, you can do whatever sports you're wanting to do. Cheerleading, they do a Wii Sports, they do paintball camp. I mean, whatever you're looking to do, and that really meets a need. So, awesome. What about back here at this table?
We're from different churches.
Okay.
And her campus actually is in she's more, retail business district.
Okay.
I live in the theater. So we talked about
Very cool. I'd love to go to church in the theater. I think that'd be popcorn on one side, soda on the other. That'd be great.
So we talked about some of the challenges of not having immediate families in the area. Then we also talked about the opportunities of just partnershiping between businesses and some opportunities there. Our church is, my church is in we've got a neighborhood surrounding our church. And one thing that we're looking to do in the next little while is we're going to be partnering with a seniors home. And there's one particular seniors home, one of their community coordinator just sent out a blank letter to churches and businesses and all different places and just said, like, we need help, we need different things, let us know what you can do. And so I talked to one of them, and she said that one thing is that a lot of the residents are just really lonely. There's just nobody to visit them. Their grandkids don't come. Their kids don't come. This particular facility is a long-term care facility, so that's pretty much the philosophy of the beat. And we're going to stick our kids in there, and basically we're looking at maybe adopting grandparents or adopting some people and just people to send a letter to, people to send a card to every month or something like that.
That's great.
And then even just as our kids have songs prepared for Christmas or Easter, even if things like that. Just, okay, we'll choose a few of the songs, we'll go in and we'll sing it for them, we'll bring in a banner, different stuff like that.
That's awesome. Very awesome. Right over here.
Well, I guess we all come from a little bit of a smaller church community setting, and we don't have a lot of the issues that you guys have with safety and things like what we were just saying. We have the mayor of our town look attend our church, and we went to police, asked them what they wanted, and like you guys said, if you go and you tell them you have people and some resources, they will willing to give you the money if you have the hands-on people. We started a breakfast program. We picked up food from Tim Hortons and Safeway, Oakway. I don't know if you guys can do that here. Did bring a record checks, went into the schools. A lot of kids can't afford or don't have time for breakfast. They learn better when they've eaten. So they let us walk in and just feed all the kids. So we do a breakfast program in the mornings at the public school, the junior and senior high, and they just let us pop it. We come in and say, we probably have experience with music or sound or drama. They have these productions in a community theater, and we're like, can we help you? And so now, we've been there 28 years, so longevity and commitment lets you do a lot of things. So you're like, okay, well, can I borrow your light set? We'll let you our sound system, and so.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Very cool. Right in the back here.
In our church, we have a catchword called incarnational. And a lot of people go, what's that? Well, we're taking Jesus back out to the people rather than come to our church. So we've divided the 1 kilometer radius around the church that we want to be very intentional, go door to door, and invite them into the church.
That's good.
Lots of different avenues you can use, food, sports,
Whatever means that you can get them in the door. I think that there really is the answer to growing a church, is being partners. If your church is known of somebody that, the reputation in town is a church that partners, a church that reaches families, that's there for families, I guarantee you'll grow. Because that's what people are looking for. And that brings us to our partnership. Partnership equals serving your community. So when we talk about partnership, that's what we're really talking about. Is how can we serve our community, look for strategic partnerships with the chief of police and other organizations, maybe the foster care system, whatever you can see where there's a need. So we look for ways to build bridges. And these are all great ideas that have come out of ways that you're building bridges in your community. Ideas for serving your community. Whatever that is, be actively involved in your public schools. I think that that's a very important thing. And how do we do that with our schools? Ways to serve. We need to serve them, whether it be feeding lunches or be partnering with the teachers. They won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if we can help show them how much we care, they're going to partner. Find out what your public school needs. They might need volunteers. They might need resource people. Serve with no strings attached. Just say, hey, you know what? We're here to serve you. We're here to bless you. We don't want anything back. Relationship is built by service, and one other word that I think you hit, longevity. Service and longevity. Because if they can trust you, the doors will be open to minister and be a part of what they're doing. Expect nothing back. Ways to serve the school, volunteering, get to know the principal and the staff, take on projects at school, maybe paint the school. We were talking yesterday in our Character Connects. Our church actually adopts a full school and goes in and paints the school and cleans the school and does remodels the teacher's lounge. One year they put cabinets in the school. You might not be able to do all of that, but even putting a bag of cookies on the teacher's desk to say, we appreciate you. That's a way to get in. Find a need and meet it. Show appreciation to the staff at school. Maybe do a luncheon or a breakfast for those teachers. Do a bag, give them a $5 Starbucks gift certificate. Hallelujah. Or Tim Hortons, however you want to do that. Our goal should be to build relationship and partnership with the school. Our goal should also be to build trust in the community. Other ways to partner with your community. Pray and ask God that God will give you direction on exactly what he wants your church to be doing in the community. And you know what? This is not up to just your pastor. You can sit in the pews and say, well, when our pastor gets it together and we start partnering. No, you know what? The church is us. The church is the frontline people. The church is you and me. And maybe you're not on staff at a church, but you could create a lot of momentum and create a lot of ways. Maybe you're the one that's going to say, hey, I'm going to go and partner. And then we'll bring the rest of the church along. It's not just the pastor whose job it is to figure out how to partner with your community. You know people that your pastor doesn't know. You have a whole circle of influence that maybe your pastor will never get to. And if you can help forge that partnership, it might open a complete new door for your church. Find a true need in your community and meet it. Don't copy what others are doing. When you find that need, it'll give you an open door to build a bridge. It's kind of a marketing perspective. What sets your church apart from anyone else in town? And I know we don't talk, marketing in the church world is sometimes like, whoa, but it's true. Because if you want people to come in, you want you want the lost to be saved, and you want people to come into your church, what is doing that's going to set you apart? If you have an outreach that has no results, don't do it anymore. If you don't have families coming back to your church, maybe you look at doing something differently. The outreaches that suck the life out of your volunteers and sidetrack you from what you're doing, maybe, find something that's going to make an impact. Don't look inward, look outward. We're going to turn the corner now, and we're going to talk about partnership with parents. I think that's a good discussion that we look at. Partnering with your parents. There's 2 questions that I want you to answer at your table. First of all, what are some of the needs that parents have in your church today? Second, how do you effectively build bridges and resource those parents? So take about 5 minutes at your table and let's go through those 2 questions. What are some of the needs that your parents have today in your church? How do you effectively build bridges and resource those parents? 5 minutes, and let's see if we can answer those. So there's been discussion of like the holidays for the rest. 1 minute. We'll pull back together here. Okay, what are some of the needs that you see parents having today? We'll just go, let's just shoot them off. What's one need that you guys see parents have today? We'll just go to one, just have each table share one need.
Oh, parenting.
Yes, for parents.
Parenting skills.
Okay, parenting skills. Okay? Which is interesting because most of them were never parented correctly. So you've got a whole couple of generations that need some help in that area. And it's interesting, the other thing is the mistakes that are just repeated over and over again. The generational curses that are there in those families that need to be broken. What about back here? Child care, okay. Okay, what else? Back at that table here. Or
Having parents teach the word at home during,
Okay.
not just on Sundays.
So spiritual responsibility. And it goes back to that whole thing of them saying, well, I just got saved myself. I don't even really know what that means to be a Christian. Now you're asking me to be the spiritual head of my home. I don't even know, kind of interesting. Back here.
Meals?
What is that?
Meals? Like food prep? Like make me dinner?
Typical guy asking a question. Good point. I think we were looking at some stats the other day that said 65% of meals are eaten in the car today in American families. So maybe even teaching on the importance of having family meals together. What about right back here? Marriage. Nothing that'll tear a family apart quicker than that. I was talking last night in my class about how we did a date night for parents. We said, you know what, we feel like it's important that parents could have a date together. Because if you're not good together, you're not going to be good as a family. So we had a movie night at our church on a Friday night where we'd say, you come drop your kids off and mom and dad go out and have a date. Talk about great partnership. The parents were loving life. We just got college students and high school students who'd be willing to get on Friday night. And that's how we did it. It was a great opportunity to be able to do that. What about here?
You said technology training, so like
Ooh,
info and things like that for the parents. Some people have no clue what's going on in the computer world. So Facebooking and learning how to texting classes.
All right, everybody, clock it down. We're going to get on Twitter and do a little bit of Twitter stuff. No, that's huge. How many parents make the mistake of even allowing their kids to have internet access right in their bedroom? Something like 45% of kids have internet access in their bedroom, and I just go like, that's crazy, especially giving boys access to a computer with nobody even watching. I mean, parents are lost when it comes to that stuff. Have we got everybody, I think? Back to this table here. I think we got, did we get anything from you yet? Marriage, okay. Anybody else not speak yet? Okay, how do we build a bridge and help them with some resources when it comes to that? What's some thoughts? We'll go hit each table. What do you guys think?
You should quite get there.
Okay. Back here?
Offering different conferences.
Okay. Conferences.
Retreats.
And you may come across a good resource that maybe you didn't say in your group, and you could think, hey, this is a great book and a great training series. What about back here?
We didn't get from the resource kind of thing. We looked at just the fact that like the best way to build bridges with parents is to focus focus on like their basic needs, so
Okay.
not focusing on all these optional program things, but focusing on what do they need to survive, and those are the things that they're going to cling to.
That's good. And that even speaks to how you program your church. Because if you have activities every night of the week, that's not going to be conducive to families. So maybe it's cutting back and saying the activities we're going to have are going to be very, very much met focused on meeting the needs of the families. Not right here.
Yeah, we didn't even get that.
Okay? No? You guys have anything back there?
I know, but we have a midweek kids club that we do,
Okay.
and so just for a short, I think it was 8 weeks, we did the Hurry Family.
Okay.
The parents drop the kids off and do whatever, grade for them. But to offer some kind of help, we just thought we could use that time.
Okay.
And yeah, it was actually amazing. People really didn't think would stay now actually are attending church on
Good.
Sundays.
You made a bridge. It's good.
We can put that was pretty easy to do with Dunbar put in the serving team for the meals. And
Okay.
anyone in the neighborhood, if they have any baby, we kind of say, we'll give you 1 week of free meals.
How
And
cool.
And all done by email, so we just get our people to sign up, and then we'll just drop off the meals daily at 4 to this person.
That's cool. That's cool. Finding the need and meeting it. That's really one of those needs that I think is huge. There's a couple other things. Dare to Discipline by Dobson is a great series. One of the things I think we've got to do to help parents is equip them to talk about sex with their kids. And I did say the S word, but it's huge. Okay? Preparing for Adolescence is one of those great tools. And that's another Dobson. Because it's not our job to be talking about sex at church. It's moms and dads. Okay? I don't know how to spell very well. I'm just a children's pastor. So that's adolescence. Okay? As you can probably tell. All right. Those are great things. A couple of thoughts on partnership with parents. Okay? And I'll show you this video. I think it's a great, great picture of kind of where parents are at today. And the importance of their influence on their kids.
Looks like rain again today. Dark clouds gather, fill the sky. Don't know how to talk to you, just know how to say
And that's what our goal is to help parents make their positive influence. And to make their influence positive. Children see, children do. Isn't that an amazing video? It's put together by a German parenting initiative because they realized the importance of partnering with moms and dads and parents. A couple of things when it comes to this whole partnership. I think we have to take it from the perspective of parents want to do a good job raising their children. That's not the issue. Sometimes we look at parents and we go, they just don't even care. Most parents want to do a good job. They just don't know how. Parents must be educated in the process. We must help them to know. We need to provide tools that will help parents with transition time, such as junior high, high school. That's a great time to be able to help them when they get into high school. Somebody said it last night. When they get into preteen ministry, sometimes the church makes the workers look cool and the parents not look so cool. Okay? And I think we've got to do everything we can in every stage of a child's development age to honor those parents and say, you know what, your parents are important. They are something that you want to cherish. Provide resources that parents can use at home to help them take on the role that God's called them to. If we don't partner with parents, we only have kids for about 52 hours a year on average. Mom and dad have them for over 3,000 hours a year. So if we don't help partner with parents, what we do in church is not going to be nearly as successful. And then there's the whole question of kids that come to church that don't have parents, and we have to step in and kind of help them in that area. Provide opportunities for parents and children to have fun together and also learn together. That's why I'm a huge proponent of taking time out, no matter how you do it in your church, to say, you know what, we want moms and dads and families to all worship together at some point. That's why Sunday night was so awesome. Most churches, how many of your churches have Sunday nights anymore? Not very many. We've pretty much gotten rid of that. And it's sad because that's where families all served together and all came together and got ministered together. So we've got to find a place that we can do that. Whether it's have kids together and worship with their moms and dads, or have, do the quarterly or the monthly or the family services that we're talking about. Because I think it's important for kids because children see, children do. If they see their parents worshiping, they're going to worship. If they see their parents praying, they're going to pray. It was interesting. I was talking to my 5.5-year-old twin daughter the other day, and she said, Dad, I know you read the Bible. And I said, well, how do you read that? Because every morning I see you reading it when you first get up. And I didn't even know. I mean, that's nothing on me. I mean, I was shocked. It really surprised me because she had picked up something that I didn't even know she had picked up. And if we can help moms and dads with that, I think it's important. Identify the issues that your parents are struggling with, and enlist the help of your youth pastor. Provide some resources that together, you and the youth pastor and the youth ministry can help resource your parents. The resources should be based around your whole game plan that we talked about earlier. Your overall game plan to create families and create people that are serving the Lord. Build a bridge between your parents and the youth pastor. Okay? In children's ministry, our job is to make sure that transition goes well. How do we do that? By building that bridge. And saying, you know what, we're gonna. I kind of view it as a rope tow. Anybody ever seen a rope tow at a ski hill? How many of you know when you grab onto that rope tow, it'll about pull your arm off? You know what I'm saying? Well, that's what we do in church sometimes with our transitions. These kids are just like, man, if I can just hold on and get into youth ministry, and it pulls their arm out of socket. And they're like, I'm lost. Well, you know what? I want a transition to be easier than that. I want us to be able to say, you know what, we're going to, like the chairlift, kind of just picks you up and puts you on, yeah, I have a great story. I fell off a chairlift a couple months ago. But anyways, that's another time and another place. And I made it to tell the story. But that's just going to help them transition right onto the next stage of their life. Encourage times that families can attend church together. Sometimes our programming builds in the fact that we keep everybody separate and keep everybody apart, and it's hard for moms and dads. With this generation, the parents must not only model at church, but they must model at home what they believe. If kids look at their parents and see a disconnect, why would they serve the Lord? And they're looking at their leaders. They're looking to see how we live our lives and how we believe, how we do what we believe, and that's by our actions. Okay? So any other thoughts on the parenting concept or questions or things that you want to throw out? Okay, let's go on to our last thing. It's partnering with kids, the kids that are in our ministry. We might always think, well, we're there to minister, but I say we're there to partner to help them to become the people that Christ has called them to be, the followers of Christ. So what does effective partnering, that's our discussion question, what does effective partnering with children look like today? And sometimes, I got a really hilarious, another funny video, because it feels like sometimes we're talking in just circles, and we don't kind of really know how to minister. We feel like, especially with preteens, they talk a different language. So let's watch this. It's pretty funny.
Let me ask 3 bucks.
That's not one.
Some people thought we were crazy.
We'll show that one later. Sorry. How did that get there? Let's see. All right, it's just like kids' church. You know, what are you going to do? Yeah, call somebody to come and fix it. All right, we'll show that in a second here. It's a hilarious. We'll wrap that. We'll use that to wrap it up. Because there's one other point that I think that I wanted to put in here. But effective strategy. So at your tables, take about 5 minutes. What does effective partnering with kids look like today? What does that look like in your ministries?
When you say kids are adventurous, her dad is, she was kind of special when we got to the things for the kids. And yeah, and you know what, she was like us, you know, are getting out of
Okay, about one more minute. Okay, let's get one idea from each table on how you can partner with kids. We'll start right back here. We'll start with you guys. What's an idea you can partner, how you can partner with your kids?
Start partnering with just sitting in a co-working
Okay.
and asking them, tell us what's happening in your life.
Ooh, that's good. So really listening.
Because they don't get a lot of undivided attention from an adult.
That's good. That's very good. I like that.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Small groups are very effective
Okay.
with having that time and opportunities.
How we build a relationship. It's taking time to really show that we care about them. It's awesome. What about right here?
Utilizing them as a ministry.
Okay, that's awesome. I think that's vital. I think it's a vital piece of the puzzle. Getting them plugged into what you're doing. It's good. Well, you can throw that at you.
You're a drummer too, right?
It's my 6 shots of Starbucks this morning. Right back here.
We talked about the importance of relationship as well. We talked about we're taking it seriously and legitimately paying attention and not just kids because I gotta find out what's going on and make them feel important. Actually really, really caring and taking the time to be observant of what's going on in their life. And we also talked about a really important thing, actually answering questions. When kids have questions and they're, I mean, one of the things with the technology that kids have now is there's so much more information and so many more things that stimulate their senses and that they start thinking about. And even if the things that, I mean, the things that 3rd or 6-year-olds are asking me, I didn't think of until I was like 12.
Oh, yeah.
But it's growing like that and just actually really saying, okay, let's think about this question. Let's look at it. I don't know, but I'll have an answer next week or whatever. But following up and actually paying attention.
That's very good. Awesome. Back here.
We like to shadow the adults.
Okay.
Kids, so like the usher brings his 4 and 6-year-old, they stand in front, they're wearing laces and ties too, they shake their hand, kind of both. Just training them up in churches or whatever you want to call it, Sunday school or nursery or library or kitchen, wherever.
That's good. Getting them indoctrinated.
Yeah.
It's not. But it's really, that's kind of what you're saying, getting them trained up and equipped. Right back here.
Acknowledging that they're like complete complex people, like needs assessments with them beyond the spiritual stuff, which is what we often focus on, that they're going through physical changes and emotional changes and relational changes, and that all those things impact their ability to learn with you. That they're going through huge stuff, with whether it's bullying or abuse at home or just emotional stuff, that you need to deal with that stuff before you can really begin to see that growth in the spiritual area.
That's great. Yeah, understanding kind of what, cause, boy, it's tough to be a kid, especially nowadays. Right up here.
I think the biggest one that sticks out is just simply knowing their name.
Oh, that's good. Knowing their name. Not just calling them Bud or Steve. You know, hey, Bud, how's it going? You actually know their name. That's good. Right back here.
We had a couple things. Really hear their heart. Like, what are
Okay.
they good at? And using that to like just help them release them into ministry that way.
Good.
And then sort of along those lines, when you do release and do that, allow them to make the mistakes,
Yeah.
fail, but then give them the tools to help them kind of pick themselves up. And because like in this day and age, there's so much cushioning that's going on with their kids. They're not really learning about the real world. Everything's being protected and all the positive words, like, instead of saying, don't run, like, use walking feet. Like that's good, but I just started doing that as an example.
I think it's
so
good.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, we give them a little taste of the real world, which is not wrong. If you fail, here's how you fix it. So there's some effective strategies I put in your notes. We talked about these a lot, but you can look through that. Involve your kids in ministry. Teach them to listen to God's voice on the back page. Give them opportunity. God calls kids to ministry at a young age. 85% of our missionaries were called between the ages of 8 and 12. So allow them to hear God's voice when it comes to that age group. And then I call it, not only allow them to hear God's voice, but then cultivate that call that he puts on their lives. Because if a child's called to be a pastor at 8 years old, they're not going to actually be in the ministry till 23, 24 after they go through college, all the tough times. And how many times does Satan come along and snag those kids? They don't make it from point A to point B. So our job is to help cultivate that and help them to become the people that God has called them to be. True partnership is formed with a child when we help them find their purpose and help them develop the gifts that God's given them. That's true partnership, in my opinion. Our goal should be to help these kids identify their spiritual gifts and then give them an opportunity to develop those gifts. And however that looks, whatever that is, as kids begin to hear God's voice and they feel called to ministry, our job should be to cultivate that call, like I said earlier. Ways to involve kids in ministry. Have your kids be a creative force. Don't be tied to your ideas. Listen to your kids' opinions of the idea. Partner with them and say, okay, we know this is your church, not our church. Okay? We want you to give us active input on what makes church good for you. We want to be a part of that. Don't be afraid to cut your idea if the kids don't think it will fly. I ask kids all the time. I say, hey, what do you think of kids' church? Or what do you think of what we're doing? Don't only give kids the grunt work. Well, you can help us, but all your job is to set up chairs. Let them be up on stage. Let them run the ministry. Let them be a part of what you're doing. Find out your team's strengths, your kids. Find out your kids' strengths and weaknesses. Find out what makes them great and help them to live in their strengths, not try to fix their weaknesses. Because chances are they're never going to fix their weaknesses. So help them to live in their strengths. Place people on your team according to their gifts and strengths and weaknesses. So create a ministry team of kids and place them according to what makes them strong. If a person's not gifted in an area, don't be afraid to make a change. If they can't sing, they're not going to be on your worship team. Okay? If they're tone deaf, you're going to help them find something else to do. Okay? Don't waste your time on trying to develop weakness. Focus on building strengths. Also focus on building character in those kids' lives. Work to use your kids in week-to-week ministry, kids' church, Sunday school. Be creative and plug them into everything that you do. Make sure that discipleship and mentoring go hand in hand with ministry training. In the last couple of minutes, one other area that I want to hit on, and it's not in my notes, I told you get to write a little bit, is partnership with our team, with the volunteers who serve in children's ministry with you. I think that's as vital as anything that you do, because ministry has to be done as a team. If you're not doing it as a team, you're not going to be successful. So I think it's important when we talk partnership, we've got to make sure that our teams are partnering together also, and making sure that everyone that serves in your children's ministry is partnering together as a team. If it's adversarial, it's not going to be successful. If there's not unity on your team, it's not going to be successful. And that's kind of where that video came in. It was a great picture of building the team, and maybe the wrong picture. So I'm going to show you this real quick. It's a great video.
When we had 3 months at the starting thing, some people thought we were crazy. But I'm a firm believer in paradigm breaking, outside the box thinking. Amen. It was over 15 minutes ago, man! And since Terry's been with us, our productivity has gone up 46%. More from our employees than ever before. You're going to need a cover sheet or the TPS report. Christian, thank you, baby! What's really interesting is how Terry's become part of the fellowship family. He fits right in. To be honest, I wish we were on Sunday's secretary case.
We laugh, but there's some teams like that in church. Everybody's working against each other. Everybody's fighting against for the same resources. And I think this video shows us, as closing up, this next video shows us what really a team should look like.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm Kathy. We're neighbors of ministries. And Chuck and I, we couldn't be more excited about the idea of teamwork. And today we're going to take the idea of teamwork and paint you a beautiful picture through the medium of music. Take it away, Johnny. Hearing Johnny sing by himself is rather putrid and boring. Amazing what happens when you add others to the mix. Check this out. Through modern technology, we're even able to do this. I'll tell you about teamwork. It's less about me and more about we. We all know the old saying that there's no I in team, but there's also no selfish hypocrisy in team either. So we throw a gotcha in the mix. When people say no man is hard, I used to think, of course, no man is a piece of branch around my body water. I didn't realize that people
of a good team working together and partnering together. I hope you've enjoyed your time. Our time is up. God bless you guys, and go and partner. Thank you very much.
By the way, there's a Cherokee version of Evangelist Lemon.
No, I haven't.
It looks like somehow, but
I will.
all the people who are going to show up witnessing tomorrow when he comes in.
That's good. I'll have to look at that. That's good. Thanks. A lot of YouTube. Yeah. I have a guy in the office before we go. I don't know about
Yeah. I just want to say thank you so much. What a blessing you've been.
Thank you.
Inspired us.
Good.
Thanks for coming to Canada.
Definitely. Glad to be here. Thank you. God bless you. See you, ladies.